course, Wayne Bennett is favoured to return to the Broncos after confirming he'll be leaving the Dragons at the end of the year. Souths and Newcastle are still in the hunt for him, but Wayne isn't giving much away. Have a listen.
It's unusual.
I still enjoy coaching. I don't want to go home and sit around doing nothing. I don't want to. I met too many guys in my age group and had great jobs and enjoyed what they did and thought, retirement would be better. Well, retirement's not better. And I'm not a golfer. I'm not a socialiser. So I just enjoy coaching, and while I enjoy coaching, I'll keep doing it. I can assure you it's not about money. If it was about money, I wouldn't be leaving here. So, no, it's about the challenge.
The wisdom of
Wayne Bennett press conference, mate. They're fabulous.
Well, the interesting thing is we think he'll make a decision within a week. He rang the Broncos. It didn't happen the other way. About 3 months ago, he said, I've got 6 clubs on my tail, but I want to come home. But...
Oh, now, is this crazy? We're hearing this for the first time?
And that's what Ivan Henjek has revealed. He said that the club spoke to him. He said, we've had a call from Wayne. He's got 6 clubs on his tail. He wants to come home. This is a couple of months ago. Things have changed. This week, Wayne is waiting for an offer from Nathan Tinkler, and he will have a look at it. But we think he'll go to Brisbane.
Nathan Tinkler
it's not about the money.
And it's not about the money.
So Nathan Tinkler's just bought Newcastle. We'll be covering that story later on in the show.
Covering that shortly.
But actually, just for people who weren't aware.
Bobby Bennett, who is not a drummer or a rock star, Bobby Bennett is the brother who actually lives with Wayne. He's Wayne's brother. He had this to say.
He's won a premiership now at St George, so he's won 2 premierships at 2 different clubs. I think his challenge will be to win 3 premierships at 3 different clubs.
Whoa! Could it be the Newcastle Knights?
Right? His brother lives with him.
That's right, because Wayne's staying down in Sydney town.
Yeah, in fact, Wollongong he stays.
Wayne actually tells a yarn about his brother. Wayne was filthy after a loss. He was going up a lift one day, and a bloke said, "Hey, you Wayne Bennett?" He said, "No, I'm his brother Bob." And and he was just like that. Then he came down the next day, and the same bloke was in the lift. He couldn't believe it. He said, "You are Wayne Bennett, aren't you?" And he says, "Yeah." He said, at least you've got some sort of a smile on you. But didn't your brother a grumpy bastard?
Yeah, well, South you'd have to put...
outsiders.
Outsiders. There was even talk of North Queensland, outsiders.
Yeah.
It'd only be Nathan Tinkler.
But it's not about the money.
No. The thing about Brisbane...
Seriously, I don't think it would be about the money.
No, not with Wayne.
If he goes back to Brisbane, it's a lifetime thing. He might only sign for 2 years, but he can flop around the club for the rest of his days. If he goes to Newcastle... That's it. You don't go back to the Broncos after that.
One question.
I mean?
Does Wayne have shares or something in the Broncos? I heard a rumour. That's not true?
No.
The only guy I'd ever go and learn under before, if I was to be a coach, would be Wayne.
Yeah.
That's how I regard him. He's just...
He's a crackerjack coach.
For a coach, you couldn't get any better.
I think we'd like him to go back to Brisbane, wouldn't we?
Oh, well, but there's also a school of thought, and it would be terrific as a mentor for Darren Lockyer, who's coming through in the coaching ranks.
Yeah.
There's also a school of thought that it shows that Brisbane, we can't survive without Wayne. We've got to get him back. You know what I mean? Doesn't life move on a bit? You know what I mean? But I think he has wanted to move home, but it's no certainty. If Tinkler... Because Brisbane is a public company and shareholders, they can't offer much more than about $800,000 a year.
Is that all?
Yeah, Tinkler can go...
Not about money.
But Tinkler can go 1.6 million. And as much as Wayne says it's not about money, he keeps himself fit for one purpose. He's got several disabled kids, and he is paranoid about dying and not having enough estate to look after them. That is a well-known, and it's a deep commitment he feels. And so... It is a little bit about money.
But he is, as he points out, if it was all about money, he'd be staying where he is, because he's on a good wicket over at
You said you loved to play under him.
Learn under him.
I mean, a lot of blokes are probably half-decent coaches, but we were talking the other week about the coaches who can really work out players' heads, and is Wayne...
He's the master at it. And we had the same guy around us with Phil Johnsey, Dr. Phil Johnsey, who helped Lee and he helped Buchanan, and he's been part of the great eras. So when I talk to Wayne, it's just so easy. You get on the level, you talk about a player, we'll talk about the psychology of him and a profiling, and I go, oh yeah, you do this with him, and he says, yeah, but when I do this, and I say, yeah, I had a guy do exactly the same thing. It's a great conversation.
Doesn't matter what code,
exactly.
It's here. Yeah,
all right.
Skills, management.
The Newcastle Knights, as we said, are one of the clubs hot on Wayne's trail, and no one has a bigger chequebook than their new owner, mining magnate Nathan Tinkler. He secured a whopping 97% of the member vote as they approved his takeover, and I'm sure this speech had quite a lot to do with it.
philanthropy through sport is something different. We haven't seen a lot of people do that in Australia, but certainly, you know, around the world, there's lots of people that take these sort of things on as their way of giving back to their communities. Because at the end of the day, if you know, community don't support it, you don't have anything. So you know, this is I suppose one of the ways that I see of you know, giving back to a community that not only do I live in, but you know, I feel gives back to me.
I don't think I've ever heard a story with more mixed reaction than this one. You're either with Nathan Tinkler or a lot of people don't like him at all.
Yeah, well, Rebecca Wilson in the Daily Telegraph sort of just said...
I don't know what that feels like, I mean...
yeah. But look, you can't argue with what he said. There isn't a lot of philanthropy in sport.
No, that's a good
point.
point.
But who has that many millions to be able to be
philanthropic?
Lots of people in them, especially in the US.
There's a number of them have bought soccer clubs. I mean, we're talking about a waste of money.
Would you like to play in a club? I mean, I know the AFL don't have proprietary membership, owned by one fella.
It will run, if you have a personality clash, which happens occasionally, with that dude, your life is going to be short there. And they can be, if they're good managers, yes. But if they're bullies and just blokes who don't know what they're doing and don't have any skills...
Well, that's the question everyone's asking, is how if they lose 3 or 4 games on the trot and a couple of guys playing like busted asses, is he going to be on the phone saying...
Nathan's auntie says, I don't like that
I don't like him.
But it's a very good point.
It's a valid
He's
point.
been through 6 or 7 horse trainers since he became very wealthy. And you know, I remember one at Eagle Farm. This horse ran second in Brisbane, and just as they were pulling up around the back, he got tick tick. He got a text saying you this and you that and blah 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 blah. So he can be very volatile. And Mike, it is a worry. It's an issue. There is a feeling that he was very volatile when he first became really wealthy, like about 5 or 6 years ago, and he may have settled down and realised that, hang on a minute, I just, you know, that first flush of fame and fortune. So that's the hope. But there are a lot of people concerned about this, and so they should be. It's, you know...
Well, not too many at Newcastle when you get 97% of the vote, but it's a good point.
He's allowed to be competitive. There's nothing wrong with that, but you've got to have the skills to work with people. If you don't have that, doesn't matter how much money you got, the people will just... They'll flick him out of town.
Everyone's concerned at the moment, Jason, is that he's just going to overexert his influence.
And there's 8 positions on the board, and they're all his. So basically, they have no say. So it's you know, it's dangerous.
Nathan rules at this moment.
Yeah.
No casualties at the Knights from skirmish, but club chief Steve Burraston's bitten the bullet and quit after Nathan Tinkler's takeover. Patrick Mollahan, 7 News.
First, Brad with sport, and no Brisbane Broncos homecoming for Wayne Bennett.
It's not going to happen, Deb, and where Wayne Bennett goes from here could determine who keeps their jobs. We'll have the fallout next. Good evening. Wayne Bennett has knocked back a return to the Broncos, with Brisbane installing Anthony Griffin for an extra 2 years. Adam Hawes joins us now live from the Sydney Football Stadium. Adam, Bennett's latest move has the league world abuzz.
Yeah, Brad, just when we thought we knew exactly what Wayne Bennett would be doing in 2012, another giant twist today with him pulling out of talks with the Broncos. Now, the latest information is that he's genuinely split down the middle when it comes to Newcastle and Souths, but I am told by a source close to Bennett that a decision is imminent, certainly by early next week. Now, today's news even had State of Origin coaches Ricky Stewart and Mal Meninga during a rare catch-up on the Sunshine Coast. They weighed into the talk. They admitted that no one, apart from the great man himself, would have any idea what he's going to do in 2012. Here's a little of what Big Mal had to say on the Sunshine Coast.
To announce it actually this early, I'm not quite sure what's going on, obviously, but obviously Wayne's not going to the Broncos now, so it'll be interesting to see where he does go to. But, you know, I've got no idea. I think a lot of people don't. You know, probably only himself would have an indication what he's doing. So good on Anthony Griffin for getting another contract with the Bronx.
I knew I was second choice, and I've got, you know, no problems with that. The club's been totally transparent with me over the last couple of weeks as to their interest in pursuing Wayne.
Newcastle are now favourites to sign Wayne Bennett after the Supercoach told the Broncos he won't return to Brisbane next year. The Rabbitohs are also trying to bring Bennett to Redfern. Tonight they take on West Tigers to kick off the NRL's Heritage Round.
Just staring with you for a little bit, see if that works. The boys have stared off to get ready for today's show, and you gauge their performance. Does it help? Will MG be any better today? Will TK?
I doubt it.
But we'll just see. We've adopted the Panthers method, which worked a treat last night. So we have so much to talk about, and we're going to open with Wayne Bennett. Everyone's talking about it. Back page headlines. Russell Crowe offers apartment on the water to Wayne. Nathan Tinkler hits back with private jet. Russell Crowe hits back with movie offer for Wayne. Where's he going to go, MJ?
Dirty Harry.
Where's he going to go? Yes.
Yeah, I think it's either one of the two. I think either South Sydney or Newcastle will be the team. Probably Newcastle, I'm leaning to. But just as late as last night, I'm hearing that New Zealand Warriors have thrown their hat in the ring as well. So I think the
They'd have to give him all North Island, maybe. They say you just have this island to live on, or maybe the South. Just give him part of it. Just say, here you go, you can live.
I think he gets to own Palmerston North.
Palmerston, which is on the south.
I think
the
so,
north.
yeah.
No, anyway. TK, where does he go? Put your life on it.
If I was having a bet, if I'm accustomed to having a bet as I am, I'd be saying the Newcastle Knights. But, you know, Wayne would be loving this. This is exactly how he loves things being played out. I was once told, forget about Arco, forget about Quayle, forget about Murdoch. The best politician in the game is Wayne Bennett. And he's got everyone just pandering to him at the moment. He's got everyone under his spell at the moment. And you know what? Wayne will tell us when he is good and ready.
I've heard otherwise. He's a little confused at this situation. Gus, where do you think he goes? Spin the wheel? Where's it going to stop?
I don't know. I've got no idea. I think he has genuinely wavered over this decision. I think it's been a decision to leave the Dragons, then a decision not to go home to the Brisbane Broncos, and now a choice between two great clubs. I don't think he's enjoying it. I do. I don't think he is. Normally he would.
But being wanted is always a great thing, Gus.
It is.
Yeah, it's better than not having a gig to go to.
Yeah, it is. I think it would be great if he got around. When he dies and when he leaves the game, he'll be remembered as the Broncos coach. Doesn't matter how many clubs he coaches at from now on. Yeah. All right. So if he'd have stayed at St George for 10 years, maybe that was in jeopardy. So I think it's a good thing he leaves the Dragons. And wherever he goes for a couple of years. I wouldn't mind him seeing do it at another club. Because I think the game needs it. I think they need Wayne Bennett to get around and have some influence in a lot of places. If you ask me today, I think it's 60-40 Rabbits. But that could change tomorrow.
All right.
The Knights and Rabbitohs are hoping Supercoach Wayne Bennett will announce his future as early as tomorrow.
At the Dragons, they're not getting caught up in the battle to buy their coach, Wayne Bennett.
What concerns us is already done, and that's that Wayne's leaving and we've got a new coach.
But they say whoever wins out of the Knights and Rabbitohs will be one lucky club.
They're going to get the best coach in the world, full stop.
And whatever club's lucky enough to get his signature, he's going to do a wonderful job, and I'm pretty sure they'll be pretty successful.
Wherever Wayne goes, fullback Darius Boyd wants to join him.
I suppose when he does make the decision, I'll have to weigh up my options then.
While South fans and players know not even Russell Crowe can compete with Nathan Tinkler's money, they still hold out hope because all along Wayne Bennett said his next move will be for the challenge and not the cash.
I dare say he wouldn't drop that on us the week before we play South, but, you know, whatever happens, happens.
Let's check out the Newcastle Knights. There is a change to the starting 13. It is in the forward pack with Zeb Taya out. In 15, Corey Patterson moves into the second row with Chris Houston. Joel Edwards, very talented youngster with a good work ethic, locks the scrum. The captain is Kirk Gidley and the go-to man is the 7, Jared Mullen. The bench, Fayoso, Tola, Mika and De Goys. Now, Rick Stone is the coach there, and the visitors haven't yet arrived at Suncorp Stadium. They're leaving it pretty late, aren't they? Over the course of the next hour, we'll hear from the two coaches, Griffin and Stone. We'll also speak to Justin Hodges and Kirk Gidley. Kick-off at 7 o'clock.
Good on you, Andy. Back to you there a little bit later. There has been some rain there at Suncorp Stadium today. Looks as though it's eased, which is good news for tonight's game. Okay. All right, let's go out to some real men now out at Suncorp Stadium. And it's a very good evening to Warren Smith, Greg Alexander and Laurie Daly. G'day, boys.
G'day, fellas. As the rain starts to come down behind us here once again at Suncorp Stadium, it might be one of those nights, as Andy Raymond told you earlier. Of course, we'll wait and see how it turns out between the Broncos and the Knights. Well, the Broncos, they know who's going to be coaching them in 2012. The Knights, though, they're not so sure at the moment. They're waiting to see if Wayne Bennett decides if he's joining the influx, going to Tinkler Town. Brandy, could that possibly be a distraction for the Knights players heading into this game tonight?
I don't know, was it? I suppose it's hard to gauge what sort of impact and the speculation is having on the Knights players.
players, the bloke that it would impact on is the coach, Rick Stone. He's a pretty cool customer, so I don't think he's imparted any of those jittery nerves, if he's feeling any, onto his players. In fact, if you believe that the players have already been informed that Wayne Bennett will be there next year, I can only see it as a positive. They want to impress the bloke that is looking after them next year, and look, I think they can all put that behind them and just get on with the job that they've got here tonight against the Broncos.
Yeah, they'll be hoping that's the case, of course. Now, Kurt Gidley has missed a couple of games this year with back spasms, and while it's assumed that Todd Carney will be the number 6 for New South Wales in this year's Origin Series, I don't know that anybody is actually locked in for the Blues at the moment. And if Gidley has a big game tonight as a 5'8" again, he's got to be in the mix.
Yeah, look, he can certainly put some pressure on if Todd Carney is the man to play in the Blues number 6, but he can play anywhere, Kurt Gidley. And look, in an ideal situation, he probably is better at fullback for the Newcastle team, but as it stands, with their depth in the outside backs, partnering Jared Mullen, I think, is better for Newcastle. But he gets through a ton of work, Kurt Gidley. He's got a strong kicking game. And look, he's not a natural ball player, Kurt Gidley, but I think he has developed that part of his game nicely, and certainly looks good for Newcastle in the number 6.
Yeah, there are some players struggling for New South Wales, or potentially for New South Wales, those who would be in the reckoning for a spot in Game 1 of the series up here at Suncorp Stadium. Let's hear from the Newcastle skipper now. He also has spoken with Andy.
It's been a couple of weeks now. You're comfortable back playing frontline footy?
Yeah, mate, I enjoy defending the line. I think gets me probably a bit more involved in defensive side, definitely. But, you know, I enjoy playing fullback as well, but whatever's best for the team, I'm happy to play.
Speaking of defence, too many missed tackles last week, 37, an area you'd no doubt be working on.
Yeah, probably the majority were probably in the first half, and we probably got off to a bit of a slow start, so we're looking to rectify that this week.
Your mud runners?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't had a look at the ground yet. There's been a little bit of rain about, but hopefully ball control is pretty tidy, and I'm sure that'll help either team.
Well, a big game, of course, for the Newcastle Knights on the road up here on Monday Night Football. We're still considering our tips, I think, boys. We've been talking about it for some time here during the pre-game show. We're going to have a few more thoughts, and we'll come back to give you our final thoughts in a few minutes' time.
Indeed. We shouldn't underestimate the Newcastle Knights tonight.
Welcome back to Fox Sports Monday Night Football live from Suncorp Stadium. We're beneath the Southern Grandstand here at Suncorp, a venue that was savaged by the January floods. As a result, the dressing rooms are a no-go zone. These are the temporary dressing rooms in use for season 2011. These are also the reason the Newcastle Knights opted to prepare at their team hotel as opposed to coming here. Well, they're late, but they have arrived, and I caught up with their coach Rick Stone and also Broncos coach Anthony Griffin. Rick, a late arrival at the ground, different. What's the theory?
Oh, pretty comfortable at the hotel. We've got a good ballroom up on level 5 there, and all the boys got ready there in a nice, relaxed atmosphere. And we know there's a few things change here in the dressing room, so we're going to take advantage of what we've got at the hotel.
Positive performance last week, despite a loss. What have you worked on?
Yeah, probably our start was a bit disappointing. I think a couple of penalties early on, and letting Saints to get out to a 14-0 lead wasn't good. So we need to work on that today.
Really easy question to finish with. Limiting Brisbane. How do you do it?
Oh, look, they've got a good mix of experience and young stars. There's no doubt about Brisbane. Probably being tidy with the footy and yardage is important. Kicking game's important, like most big games, and this one's no different.
We wish you the best.
Thank you.
Yes, it'll be interesting to see the future of Rick Stone with the impending possible move of Wayne Bennett to the Newcastle Knights. We saw a funny shot there with Andy Raymond. We might just wind that back there. There's some things that you just don't expect to see in a shot sometimes. And the Broncos...
Look at Buck. What's he doing?
Do his mate.
Buck.
There's the joke, why the long face. He actually looked a little bit depressed walking in behind him.
I could be a sign for tonight.
Could be.
Could be a sign.
A bit of an omen. I wonder if it's a sign. Let's see what the boys think out at Suncorp Stadium and get their tips. We'll start with you.
I've tossed a coin, basically, 0 for 4 at the first 4 Monday night games. I'm going to say the Brisbane Broncos because they're playing at home for no other reason, Brandy.
Gee whiz, I'm going to go the Broncos too, but my tipping's as bad as yours was, so I've got no idea tonight. I'm going to go the home team as well. They've got a few blokes coming back into the side. It might lift their enthusiasm.
One word, Lockyer.
All right. And I'm assuming that is
Gee,
the Brisbane Broncos. Good on you, Loz. All right, let's go down to Andy Raymond. Andy, how bad is that weather as we get your tip?
Yeah, it's the rain's been reasonably consistent now for about the past 45 minutes. Just starting to get a little heavier now that the umbrella's down. Put me down for the Newcastle Knights, but of most concern was the mascot we just had a look at backstage. I'm so glad the head came on when the camera was on.
Yeah, it would have been disturbing for the kids out there, wouldn't it? All right, boys. We'll start with you, Gordy.
The Broncos in wet conditions, your kicking game and your defence, and their defence has been outstanding, limiting sides to 20 points or less, and Darren Lockyer's kicking game.
Wizard.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Broncos. One, because they're at home. I think their forwards should be able to match the Newcastle side. I am a bit concerned about it because the Newcastle forwards have been up. 4 of them are averaging over 100 metres, where Brisbane only 2 players.
Until it started raining quite heavily, I was really split either way. But I think the wet weather suits the Broncos more than it does the Knights. I think the Knights are a little bit more flamboyant with the football, come up with more errors.
All right, Brisbane Broncos for me, not free spins. Free spins avoided, thankfully. Welcome back. A win for the Brisbane Broncos tonight, 17 points to 6 over the Newcastle Knights in rainy conditions there at Suncorp Stadium in front of about 25,000 fans tonight. Very good turnout for Monday night football up there in Queensland. Don't forget, Dragons' Jamie Soward will be popping in shortly, and we're going to crack open the fan phone for Jamie. Make sure you get your questions in, 1300 675 369. Let's get some reaction first. The Newcastle Knights are in the press conference. Knights coach Rick Stone and skipper Kurt Gidley.
You going? Rick, tough night all round.
Yeah, it was a tough night. Obviously, we knew the Broncos were going to be a tough nut, and they were. You know, they were prepared to play on their home ground, and they played hard for each other. You know, we probably didn't get a lot of luck. Had a few injuries along the way. I thought our effort was good, but at times our execution was a bit scratchy.
Is that the difference, execution?
Yeah, probably. You know, us probably getting our pants pulled down early with an early try probably wasn't ideal way to start the game, considering it's going to be such a close, low-scoring game, and it was going to be hard to score points. You know, so that was disappointing. But yeah, no, we probably didn't have a massive amount of opportunities. Broncos had a few more than us, I would suggest. But you know, yeah, we had a couple of decisions go against us there, probably back-to-back 3 in a row that I thought at least one of them could have got the nod.
You upset a video ref somewhere?
Oh, the forward pass, mate. You know, they'll go back and have a look at that, and that was a fair pass.
Did you think you were coming to get them at certain stages, Rick?
Oh, probably about that time, Steve, I reckon. Yeah. You know, I think, you know, we defend our own line strongly down there. Got the ball back, got it down the other end, and at times when we had a couple of decisions go our way, probably in that sort of 5 to 10 minute period, yeah, the Broncos looked a little bit wobbly.
There was a penalty count 6-1 against you at one stage, I think. Was that fair enough in the circumstances?
Oh, look, I'd have to have a look at them and go back to Bill and Stuart Raper, of course. But yeah, it was a bit disappointing. You know, Stuart evened up probably pretty close at the end, but it took a lot of juice out of us, you know, in that first half and made us work a little bit harder than we had to. And I think it told at the end. We got a little bit tired.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I mean, of course I'm going to say that, but you get a fair indication when you throw a ball, whether it's forward or not. And I probably was going sideways when I threw it, and at times that does look forward, but I thought it was fine.
Did you think it was one of those nights though when those sort of courses weren't going your way throughout? Even the Joel Edwards one not long after where he was really been held up.
Yeah, I guess they're the breaks in the game. You just need one of those to go your way, and we were coming home pretty strong, and I think if one of those had got over the line and we got the green light, then our momentum would have shifted even more. So we just needed one of those breaks, and we probably didn't get one.
Rick, were you expecting that bring down to your right side by Wallace?
Yeah, look, obviously Aku had a busy night. You know, I think he handled most of it all right. You know, they come up with a little bit of result out of it. So, you know, maybe it was worthwhile going down there. But, look, Aku's still a progress in the making, and he's going to expect that sort of stuff. You know, I thought James was strong whenever he had to catch the ball on the other side, and Aku's got to get better at that side of the game.
Kurt, what about the flip side? I mean, those bombs that Neil was pulling down, I mean, could you think, geez, he's got to drop one of them at some stage? Oh
yeah, I mean he's done well. I suppose there's nights when you take them all, and there's other nights when they don't go your way. But yeah, we could probably have a bit more of a contest in them as well. It's a lot easier when you're catching a ball by yourself in the air than blokes coming at you with a bit of a contest. So he handled them pretty well.
Do you think that the final score was a bit unflattering and that there's every reason to feel optimistic about your chances for the rest of the year? Or?
Oh yeah, I mean, the way we've come back in the second half is the last 2 weeks has been a positive and a negative, I suppose. We wouldn't like to put ourselves in that position to start with, to have to come back in the second half. But yeah, it's a little bit draining though.
Broncos' defence is the most miserly in the competition. Is there anything special about it, do you think? Or?
I think they're just working hard for each other. You know, they're making their first up tackles and starting well early in the set. And once they do that, you know, they're hard to sort of get forward on. You know, full credit to them. They're doing a good job there. You know, their edges are handling most things that's coming to them. Not that we threw a lot today. It wasn't one of those nights, but yeah, we probably would have liked to turn the ball back inside a little bit more and test them back in the middle. We didn't do that, and possibly we didn't have the field position at times to do that.
Looked like a bit of a crusher tackle there in the second half. Do you think that should have brought a penalty?
On Dan Toller?
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I thought it was, you know, a tackle that needed to be penalised. Obviously they didn't, mate. And that's probably the theme for the game, you know. Knights weren't going to win today, mate, as far as the refs were concerned, and it was pretty consistent throughout.
Could the players have their ears and eyes closed while we talk about Bennett, where he goes or might go, and he's been linked so strongly? Has it all been...
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't change the way I turn up to a training session or approach a game. So there's been speculation about things in the past at our club, and it'll continue to be too, about different things. So it doesn't change the way I approach training or a game, and I'd like to think it's the same with the rest of the boys.
You want to speak to any young guys about making sure it doesn't become disruptive?
Oh yeah, I suppose, but I suppose it's a learning thing for those young blokes, and that's part of my role is to just keep them focused on the game ahead. You know, we've got all the players have got, you know, plenty of faith and full support of Stoney, and he's been great the whole time he's been at the club. So it'll continue that way for the rest of the year, and however long Stoney's with us.
Has it been hard or easy for you? You could be an assistant coach, could be a full-time coach. You know, hard or easy for you this week?
No, it's just the same. I've got no control in what happens. You know, my job is to coach the Knights, and let's make it clear that's what I'm doing, and I'm doing that for the rest of the year, the best of my ability. Thanks, folks.
Okay, a couple of things to come out of that press conference. Firstly, the Dan Toller tackle, I guess you would say Dane Carlo was, you know, maybe the main instigator. Were we all fine with that one?
Look, I was fine with that. Obviously, you know, accidents do happen, and I thought that he was in an awkward position, but he didn't stay in that crusher position where you've watched players in the past where they stay on top and they crush his spine down. I thought the way Dane finished the tackle is what he didn't try to do that. So I would have said play on. I thought Rick Stone, and I love his honesty in all of his press conferences, but I thought he's a bit under pressure. Maybe the Bennett thing is getting to the Newcastle and and getting to him, because he's normally pretty cool and.
Well, he said there was beyond his control, you know.
Yeah,
I guess he's just got to try and focus on the job.
And he sort of said that they've gone there, and he didn't think that that the referees wanted them to win, and it's a big statement for a coach to say that these days. I thought he's a bit under pressure, where normally he's pretty cool and he's brutally honest, and I love him because he's honest and he gives the Newcastle fans his fair appraisal of the game. But I thought he's a little bit flustered there tonight.
There's another incident involving Corey Patterson and Jarrell Yayi, but we'll have a look at that after the Brisbane Broncos press conference. We've just got to have a look for that one. But they also spoke about the forward pass. Kurt Gidley said he was moving sideways. He didn't think it was forward. We might just have a look at that one. What did you boys think? I mean, it's...
I thought it was forward. honestly...
It's close.
Mate, he passes it behind the line and he catches it over the line. I think that's fine.
Okay,
I think the referee's in good position.
if that's forward, the Cronulla Sharks have every right to blow up about that game.
Because we're not talking about...
But hang on, but there's no consistency in forward passes.
We're talking about this pass here.
But is there consistency in the adjudication of forward passes? Yes. That's a blatantly forward pass, is it?
I didn't say it was blatant.
For me, I thought it was forward. But you're asking my opinion. I thought that was forward. Yeah, and you have a look where his hands look like they go forward. Yes, looks like he passes in a forward motion.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Kurt thought in the interview there, he said he thought he passed it backwards. When he looks at the video, I think he might have other opinion.
And the other thing, what Kurt did say, he said, "Look, I was running across the field. If he'd actually just straightened out one little bit, going forward and put the ball on there, it would have been right on the line, mate. I think the referee.
But in the context of the game, that was a massive call. Yeah, it was a massive call.
What about the Joel Edwards held up, but it went back to ref's call? We were happy with that one.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, all right. Just sort of check. Okay.
Just a question on your form, which has been superb over the course of this season. You had a great season last year, but the difference that Wayne Bennett has made to your career, I personally believe that the great coaches make players better than what they think they can be. How much of a factor has Wayne's coaching ability had on your career?
Yeah, look, Wayne's obviously been a massive influence on my career. I think the most important thing I've got out of Wayne being at the club is that I've got a lifelong friend there and someone that I can turn to if times get tough or if I'm having a bad run. So something that I'm very pleased to have had, and I think that's just made me a better footballer because I know that I've got someone there that I can lean on. It's something I haven't had in the past.
Jamie, just on Wayne Bennett, I know you'd probably be guessing, just like all of us, where he'd be going. So let me ask you the question this way. You're going to be playing for the Dragons next year. Which side, if Wayne Bennett took hold of it, would you hate playing against when he got his hands on those players? What do you think Wayne Bennett could make a more dangerous side out of, Newcastle or Souths?
Yeah, he's probably tucked up with a bicky and watching this now. I honestly don't know. I think Souths. Well, to me, Souths are.
Okay, well listen, look, that's hard for you to answer. Yeah, look, that's hard for you to answer. Where do you think Darius Boyd will play?
Fullback. Who with? I don't know. You said, where will he play? I don't know. Dubs is, he's obviously playing some good football the last couple of years, and he'd be an asset to any team. So I think he could play 1 or 6 the way he's been playing.
Hello and welcome to 1 Week at a Time. We've just had a weekend of retro jerseys, a game at the SCG. It was the NRL's Heritage Round, and here to thrash out all the big issues is Ricky Stewart. Sticky, did the memories come flooding back?
They did, all the good ones. Wasn't it outstanding, that game at the Sydney Cricket Ground?
Great to go
It just has such a feel about the joint.
And with you is Benny Ikin, best known as the man who kept Darren Lockyer out of the Broncos' 5/8 position for so long.
Stop it. That's a lie.
You wrote that script.
No, but look, I really enjoyed the Heritage Round, in particular the clash, the Dragons and the Dogs. I mean, to be able to take the big matches like that back to the SCG, almost the home of rugby league, was just brilliant.
Yeah, 31,000 people there to see it, and tonight we had 25,000 there to see Brisbane beat the Knights 17-6 at Suncorp Stadium. Jack Reed a double. They scored 4 tries to 1. Corey Patterson off night with the boot kept the Knights in the game. Ricky, their defence, the Broncos, they've only conceded now 44 points in 5 games. That's astounding.
Outstanding stat, and both teams. I thought both teams defensively were very, very tough. I mean, the collision was very big in the middle. Again, they got caught on the edges there on that right edge with our old mate Dukes and Uade, but some nice style of attacking from Brisbane. Benny, I was very impressed with their defence, so I think the defensive part of Brisbane game won that match.
Let's have a look at the table after round 5, and 3 teams are locked on 8 competition points. That is Melbourne, Brisbane and Premiers St George Illawarra. The Cowboys also surging up the table. Meanwhile, at the rear, we've got Gold Coast and Canberra. They are struggling with just 1 win each. Now, believe it or not, a decision on Wayne Bennett's coaching future is apparently close after he sensationally ruled out a return to Brisbane last Friday. The battle for the master coach's signature is now a 2-horse race, South Sydney and Newcastle. In other words, Russell Crowe versus Nathan Tinkler. Here's what Wayne Bennett had to say yesterday.
I can't answer that for you, I don't know. Well, I do know, but I just don't want to share it with you. Well, it's my decision. And, if you all stop trying to tell me what I should be doing and what I'm supposed to be doing, then I might make it a lot quicker.
At this point, we'll go to the man who asked that question. It's Andrew Webster from the Daily Telegraph. And Webby, what's the very latest on Wayne Bennett's coaching future?
Well, Adam, I'm sure a deal's been done. I'm sure Wayne Bennett has made a decision, but no announcement. The whole rugby league world is holding its breath. There's been some talk that there will be a press conference scheduled for Newcastle tomorrow. That mail's been around since about Friday. I'm assuming that Bennett will do it sooner than later, before the end of this week. But the big news is what his son-in-law Benny Ikin's doing, taking Nathan Tinkler's millions. What rort have you got going, Benny?
Mate, remember what they say, Webby, it's only a rort if you're not in it. But I will say
Let me
here,
in on it.
I will say here that I had a chat with Nathan Tinkler last week about a potential role in the property side of his business, which is my background. We decided not to go down that path, but you know, that discussion around the role took about 5 minutes. I ended up spending about 2 hours with Nathan Tinkler. And this is a man who's obviously very clever. You pick up on that very quick. But the thing I was a bit taken aback by was his out-and-out passion for what he's doing up there in Newcastle, not just around the rugby league, but around all the other sports. He's chosen for this to be his philanthropic gesture to Newcastle. He basically wants to give back to the town that's given him so much through sport. Amazing guy, a really special human.
Okay, well, we shouldn't be too surprised at you angling for this gig with Tinkler, because this is what you said on show 1, Ben Ikin.
Listen, I'm trying to push him to Newcastle. Apparently that's where all the money is. And at the moment, he's looking after my super. So if the big money's on offer from Tinkler, I say get up there.
Benny, that's your wallet talking, mate. What's your head and your heart as someone who's close to Wayne Bennett? Tell us what is doing.
At the moment, my gut's telling me the Rabbitohs. As impressive a guy Nathan Tinkler is, the challenge that beckons at South Sydney might be the ultimate thing that tips them in favour of the great coach. At the moment, I know he's decided. He hasn't told me, which leaves me very frustrated, but I know the announcement's not far away, but at this stage, for me personally, I'm leaning towards the Rabbits.
So am I, boys. I was sort of convinced that it was Newcastle, but in the last couple of days, it's been very spooky how quiet everyone around Redfern has been, which makes me think that a deal's been done with them, that they're not saying anything at all, on or off the record, to anyone whatsoever, because they don't want to jeopardise it, as the Roosters did in 2006.
Yeah, it's usually a surefire sign. Now, all this talk about where Bennett will coach in 2012, Webby, is it having an effect on the player market?
I think it's having a massive effect on the player market, and player managers and players are wanting Wayne Bennett to make a decision, particularly at those 2 clubs in question. South, they want to know what they have to do to possibly get Darius Boyd there. If Wayne does come there, Darius is sort of rusted on to whatever Wayne Bennett does. Same at Newcastle. If they have to sign Darius, what does it mean for them signing Kate Snowden and trying to get Jamal Idris?
Mad Dog McDougall, he'll be missing again next week from our show, but he has some observations of his game against the Broncos tonight.
Mad Dog, can I just say you were best on ground tonight. That snoz is going to look horrible if you get a start in the coming weeks because you got a big bash up. But it was good to see him have a crack.
Okay, that is all from us this week. Thank you, gentlemen, for your efforts. Wonderful again.
Good evening, I'm Bill Woods.
And I'm Deborah Knight. Also, a multi-million-dollar deal for League's super coach.
Brad McEwen joins us now after a big day for the NRL. Super coach Wayne Bennett, he's achieved so much in the game now, he's been knighted.
You could definitely say that, Bill. Bennett has finally ended the speculation over his future, signing a 4-year contract with the Newcastle Knights. The deal is believed to be worth $6.5 million, making Bennett the highest paid coach in Australia.
Knights players arrived home from last night's loss to Brisbane to news their club had landed the biggest signature in rugby league. Wayne Bennett was instead back in Sydney doing his best to avoid the media. But on the streets of Newcastle, they couldn't contain themselves.
Oh, it's good for the Knights, good for the town.
We're going to get a premiership again. About time too.
Bankrolled by new owner Nathan Tinkler, Bennett's deal is staggering. $1.6 million a season for 4 years, with bonuses for making the finals and winning premierships included. It's understood Bennett's earnings could skyrocket to as high as $12 million. Bennett praised Tinkler in a statement saying, "Private ownership appeals to me. I like it. This guy wants to take Newcastle to another level. That is the type of challenge that appeals to me." The other challenge is a personal one. Bennett has won competitions at Brisbane, St George, Illawarra. If he wins at Newcastle, he'll be the first coach to win 3 titles at 3 different clubs. The man Bennett will replace next year, Rick Stone, left disappointed. Also fined $10,000 for comments about referees. It was a day where very little went right. But the rejected Rabbitohs are just relieved the waiting game is over.
Earlier, everyone was sort of a bit anxious whether he's going to come here or Knights, but I think everyone's happy now. He's made his decision. Everyone can move on.
Adam Hawes, 10 News.
Also ahead, the latest on Wayne Bennett's move to the Knights. Good evening. A massive moving day in the NRL with Master Coach Wayne Bennett confirming he is headed to the Newcastle Knights until 2015.
Wayne Bennett isn't a TV kind of guy. Instead, today, quoted in a statement confirming from next year on, he's a Newcastle Knight. The current Knights coach effectively losing his job.
Obviously disappointment. You know, I consider myself a head coach in the NRL.
Bennett says he wants Stone to stay on as his assistant.
Well, look, I've had a good chat to Wayne this morning, and you know, I'm going to meet with him hopefully in the next couple of days, and you know, sit down and talk a little bit about his plans.
Bennett's decision will have a flow-on effect, with the pieces of the coaching puzzle for next year falling into place. But just what South Sydney does is anyone's guess.
I don't think you need the world's best coach to win premierships. You just need a good, steady coach. You know, it'd been nice to have Wayne at the club, but you know, he's got his reasons for his decision, and you know, I think everyone in the game should respect that.
South CEO Shane Richardson today wouldn't comment on the coaching candidates left. Rob Canning, 10 News.
It's been a huge day in rugby league, with two of the game's biggest names announcing their plans for the future. The Bulldogs' Jamal Idris is heading to the Gold Coast, while Wayne Bennett has finally ended all the guessing by revealing he's going to Newcastle.
When the players left Newcastle to play Brisbane, it was known as Tinkler Town. It's now known as Wayne's World. There's no doubt it's the greatest signing the Knights have made.
You know, this is a great rugby league region, and he can see great potential to help build a dynasty in this place, and that's why he's here.
Without Tinkler, this would have never happened.
I think if we look back even 2 or 3 years ago, trying to get Wayne Bennett at Newcastle to coach would have been, you know, a fair way away. Himself and his clout, and obviously his passion and drive for the team in the region, have definitely helped bring that to fruition. And good luck to him, mate. He's got his man.
Bennett credits Tinkler for his signing. In a statement, he said, "Private ownership appeals to me. I like it. This guy wants to take Newcastle to another level. He wants our game to capture the imagination of the hunter like never before." Amazingly, Stone said the players were not delighted with the decision.
I think they're a little bit disappointed. Obviously, they know how hard our staff works and they deal with us day to day.
Bennett's words that his next move in rugby league were going to be about the challenge are ringing a bit hollow here at Redfern. There's no greater challenge in rugby league than converting the talent in this South Sydney football team into a great rugby league team. The truth is, Bennett will earn around $4.2 million next year if he can take the Newcastle Knights to a premiership win.
And later in sport, how Wayne Bennett will put steel back into the Steel City. We'll talk live to former coach Michael Hagan.
South Sydney were the big losers from Wayne Bennett's decision to join Newcastle, but they haven't wasted any time making their next move. Danny Wilder joins us now. And Danny, can you tell us who is coaching Souths next year?
Well, Ken, what I can tell you is they are very, very close to signing Michael Maguire. He hasn't put pen to paper yet, the Wigan coach, but from everything I'm hearing, he will be the South Sydney coach next season and beyond. Rival coaches, those also in the running for the Souths job, have been told they should look elsewhere. Ken?
Thank you, Danny. But it was Newcastle who got the man everyone was chasing. So what will it mean for the club and the city? Former premiership winning coach and player Michael Hagan knows both as well as anyone, and he joins us now live. And Michael, will Bennett be the miracle worker everyone expects him to be?
Well, I think his record says that he probably will. He's done an exceptionally good job at the Broncos and again at the Dragons in the last couple of years. So I'm sure Newcastle can look forward to more of the same when Wayne does arrive.
Now, Bennett always runs his own race. How will he and Nathan Tinkler work together?
Well, I guess Wayne's had some experience having been at a club that's privately owned before in the Broncos and worked with a couple of high-profile people up there. So I'm sure he's probably the right type of guy to get the job done, and I'm sure he and Nathan will work pretty well together. They seem to work pretty well together so far to get the deal done, so that's a good step in the right direction.
Now, the current coach, Rick Stone, has been dealt a blow. Has he a future at the club with Bennett?
Well, I think I feel a bit for Rick today. He's done a really good job in the short time he's been at the helm, and he came down from Burleigh when I started back in 2006, and I do certainly feel disappointed for Rick. Hopefully he will be involved in part of the plans next year, and as I said, he's done a great job, and hopefully he'll be a pretty important asset to Wayne and the club moving forward.
Michael Hagan joining us live there from Newcastle, and they've got the banners out already. It's Wayne's World up the M3.
Wayne Bennett's quick escape after we find him celebrating his deal with Newcastle. Rugby League super coach Wayne Bennett has ended weeks of speculation, signing a 4-year multi-million-dollar deal with the Newcastle Knights. Patrick Mollihan joins us from NRL headquarters. Pat, Gladiator Russell Crowe couldn't compete with mining magnate Nathan Tinkler.
No, Chris, when Wayne Bennett announced he was leaving the Dragons, he said it wasn't about the money, but I'm sure it helps, signing a reported $6 million deal. It's a major coup for the Knights and the club's new owner. Hours after Wayne Bennett rejected Russell Crowe's offer to coach South, he was at one of the Hollywood Star's regular haunts. Bennett celebrated with a lunch at Otto with son-in-law Ben Ikin.
It's a bit disappointing, but everyone's got to deal with it.
Rabbitohs boss Shane Richardson told his Stars Crowe had done all he could.
I wouldn't say he's brushed us. I'm quite sure he got a nice offer down there at Newcastle.
Mining magnate Nathan Tinkler is said to have paid $6 million over 4 years, but before 7 News could ask Wayne, he ducked out a side door and raced away. But in a statement, he said he shared Tinkler's dream for the Knights to be the benchmark of rugby league in this country. That is the type of challenge that appeals to me.
And he brings an aura with him and an ability to convert to premierships.
Knights players were given the news by current coach Rick Stone, who's been offered a job but may yet pack his bags.
Multi-premiership winning coach, and he's going to bring plenty to our club. It's an exciting time for Newcastle club. I suppose, you know, in my own area, I've got to sort out what I think is going to be best for myself and my family, first and foremost.
While there's a job at South, Wigan's Michael Maguire is now the hot favourite.
Sport now with Matt Carmichael. Matt, not everyone wants to play under Wayne Bennett.
Chris, the Supercoach is going to Newcastle, but a superstar player has turned down the Knights. Coming up, Jamal Idris tells us why he's leaving the kennel for the Gold Coast. It's 1 from 2 for new Knights owner Nathan Tinkler after signing the Supercoach Wayne Bennett on a 4-year $6 million deal. But Newcastle missed out on Bulldogs centre Jamal Idris, who's off to the Gold Coast for 5 years. While Wayne Bennett made a quick getaway from lunch to avoid talking about his move to Newcastle, the Bulldogs were happy to let Jamal Idris explain why he's joining the Titans. The 20-year-old superstar told teammates this morning.
Teared up a bit, you know, because it's going to be pretty disappointing, obviously, for me to leave him. Like, I believe we are a family club, you know what I mean, and I'll always keep that with me no matter where I go.
The way he's handled himself is a credit to both himself and his family. He's handled it with true style and class throughout.
With salary cap pressure, the Dogs couldn't match the 5-year $2.4 million deal. Idris denies a chance to host children's television was a factor.
Outside opportunities are always going to be there no matter where you go. You know, at the end of the day, I'm a footy player. So, you know what I mean, footy comes first no matter what.
Convinced by his mother, Idris chose the Titans last night before finding out today about Bennett's move to the Knights.
He's one of the greatest coaches around, but I made my decision, me personally.
Newcastle also failed to convince local junior Dane Tills to move home from Canberra. It's been a tough 24 hours for coach Rick Stone, fined $10,000 for criticising referees after last night's loss to Brisbane.
And that's probably the theme for the game, you know. Knights weren't going to win today, mate, as far as the rest were concerned.
Forward Corey Patterson's facing a week suspension for kneeing. Despite the Bennett saga, the Dragons have moved into a share of the lead with the Broncos and Storm. The Panthers have climbed off the bottom of the ladder ahead of the Eels, who are 14th.
Big buffy blokes playing a big buffy sport.
And if they win, tell them they're going to get stuffed.
Just try and keep it clean tonight, please, because we are live.
Hi there, welcome again to the back page. Joining me, as always, Billy Birmingham, the 12th man. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Mikey. I've got the pen in hand, and congratulations on putting together such a wonderful panel tonight, Mike. There's talent, skill.
Stella. Not Stella, Melinda.
Yeah, Stella!
Lovely to be back once
again. From Taylor, and from the Herald Sun, John Anderson.
Evening, Mike.
Good to see you, mate.
Johnny boy.
Big sporting story of this day, Wayne Bennett off to Newcastle for 4 years on a reported pay packet of $6 million. You'd imagine such an announcement would be a cause for celebration. But the man who had to front the microphones at the press conference was the bloke who's being replaced, current coach Rick Stone.
That's a good idea.
Here's what he had to say.
Well, with my own job, obviously disappointment. You know, I consider myself a head coach in the NRL. You know, I may or may not have that opportunity in the near future, but I suppose I'll have to wait and sit down, weigh up my options and have a talk to Wayne and see what I think's best for myself and possibly my staff.
Handled himself with great dignity, young Rick.
Nathan Tinkler, the owner, he doesn't seem to front the press at all. Wayne, maybe he might turn up next week, but I was a bit sorry for that bloke.
Very sorry.
Well, what's Rick Stonecop? Rick, we're going to sack you. And by the way, we want you to conduct a press conference to announce that the bloke who's replacing you is coming to this club. How's that work?
It looks really quite unprofessional, doesn't it? You would think that, you know, the CEO would be out there, the chairman of the board would be out there. But, you know, to have to send him out there, and he did handle it absolutely beautifully.
With great dignity, and I couldn't read from that or subsequent things that whether he's keen to stay on, perhaps, as an assistant coach.
Didn't Wayne Bennett say that there would be a spot for him should Rick want to stay on?
Exactly. So
he may not feel comfortable working there after being treated that poorly. He was treated very poorly.
And it's something that everyone wanted to decide on now, but can I just say, thank goodness this announcement has happened.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Because it's been in the papers for the last 3 or 4 days. We know that, you know, Wayne's been playing up to it to a certain degree, and I'm just happy it's just out there now and the rest of
I think Wayne was holding off until the back page was on, Mike. Did you get that feeling?
Well, on Sunday, as you say, Melinda, he was still very happy, our Wayne, to continue those mind games. Have a listen.
It's fun stuff.
I can't answer that for you, I don't know. Well, I do know, but I just don't want to share it with you. Well, it's my decision. And, you know, if you all stop trying to tell me what I should be doing and what I'm supposed to be doing, then I might make it a lot quicker.
Brusque. I think he learned from the late Joe Bjelke-Petersen up there. You throw a few, you know, handfuls to the chooks. Wayne has more than a veiled contempt for the media.
Yes.
And he continues to show it.
He does. No, but you know, in a reasonably nice fashion. He usually gets chuckled, doesn't he, out of the press gallery when he, you know, well, I do know. I just don't want to share it with you.
He's got such a dry sense of humour, but
dry as an old Jad's Bicky.
And we know that he doesn't like the media, and I have enormous respect for him. I really do, as a coach. And you know, the ABC story that we saw quite a few years ago, we got to see the Australian story. We got to see a lot more of him. But after that comment, I'm sort of thinking, well, does he like the media circus or not? So that's why I was really happy to see today the decision.
No, he doesn't like it. He just knows. He knows that he's 61 now. He's been coaching for so long. He knows that he's got to go out there. If he's not going to change his ways, he's still going to be dry. He's still going to be acerbic. He's still going to, you know, have the odd, you know, off-the-cuff one-liners and whatever.
St George still have a very good chance of going back-to-back. Does it affect their title chances with their coach saying, well, I'm here with you for this year, but then I don't want to be with you after that? He's only been there.
I think it must. I think it's
third year, isn't it?
Yeah, third year. I think it must. I think no matter how much notice they're given, because they have got plenty, we're only just, you know, at the start of the season, really. I think it's got to affect.
I don't think so at all.
Athletes.
They're professional athletes.
Oh, yeah,
they've been under him. They know how he works. They obviously have enormous respect for him.
Johnny just asked whether it's going to have any effect. I just don't think anyone's going to go through the whole season with it having no effect.
Obviously, I come from a different code, thinking AFL. And it couldn't happen or doesn't happen in AFL. No. Except for, I guess, Mick Malthouse, we know he was given 2 years to do it.
Yes.
That's a slightly different situation, but certainly with players, it doesn't happen in the AFL.
I thought it had a more unsettling effect in Melbourne last year when Gary Ablett scratched around all year. I mean, I think it's better to get it off your chest. I'm going at the end of the year. Let's get on with it.
Yeah, and the coach too, the coach.
I know. I think it was Paul Roos, the former Sydney coach, said if he had a player like Gary Ablett at his club and found out that he was leaving, in reference to Tom Scully, the young Melbourne player who's been a heavy target for Greater Western Sydney for next year.
Yes.
If he knew that player was going, he would not play him in the club. He just want him out of the place.
Right.
Which is very harsh.
Very harsh. You know, in reality, I would rather in the NRL that we didn't have to make that decision now. We didn't have to make the decisions on players and coaches. We have, but I don't like it. I don't think it's acceptable.
If you had a draft, it would be different.
Yes, of course. I understand. I know they've got to get settled next year. They've got their contracts, they've got their futures, and they've got to make sure of it.
So it's settled down to a battle between two clubs, Souths and Newcastle, both owned by Maltese.
Yes.
And Wayne obviously thought, well, you know, Woolloomooloo, the apartment where Russell, you know, like going to be down with the wankers having lattes every... Or I can be up there at Newcastle with...
Who was it made that comment, Mike, about
one of the boys.
What is it? Yeah.
And it's country, isn't it? He loves that whole country feel. But do you think maybe, I want to know all your opinion, Was it the Learjet to fly him back to Brisbane? Do you think that was the stamp of approval?
Strangely enough, I don't think it would have been from a money point of view, but from a convenience point of view, Wayne being, you know, a family man to the extent that he is, and indeed he's been living in Wollongong rather than the big smoke.
Should there be a salary cap on coaches? Because the multis can afford to walk up to Wayne and give him, what, $1.5 million a year, which is about 3 times what a real good player gets.
That was raised last time I was here about 3 weeks ago. I think it was Graham Corns who said AFL coaching staff should have a salary cap. You have a situation where Essendon now has James Hird, the favourite son, coming back, and Mark Thompson, another favourite son, coming back as an assistant, and they're getting big money. More money, Mel, than most other clubs would be able to spend.
That's for the coach and the assistant coach too, wasn't it?
So if you can get the best 3 assistants with the best possible coach for that club...
Which makes a massive difference.
It does make it has to make a difference.
And also, too, you know, our football departments, that makes a difference, whether it's your medical team, it's your, you know, strength and conditioning coach. The richer the clubs are, the more they are able to supply that.
Do you reckon we're that's far off, that we'll have some sort of a salary cap?
I don't know. I can't speak for the NRL. I think in the AFL it's been suggested and strongly looked at. Although the AFL is resistant.
Are we working that way?
Well, you know, as long as fellas have got more money than they know what to do with and they want to get the best coach, they'll be totally able to outbid the other clubs that don't have private ownership.
Look at someone like Cronulla. How are they then supposed to compete with something like that?
But first, here's Brad with a look at sport.
Deb, up next, an NRL coach openly admits he envies Wayne Bennett's multi-million-dollar deal with Newcastle. At the Knights, the players are waiting for Wayne with eyes wide open to see who he'll anoint for his squad. Good evening. West's Tigers halfback Robert Louis has been cleared of all charges related to the alleged assault of his partner last year. In Newcastle, Knights skipper Kurt Gidley admits his team must perform or perish after the club's recruitment of master coach Wayne Bennett. With Bennett bound to put his own touch on the Knights roster, several players could be moved on.
There's plenty of excitement about Wayne Bennett, but when it comes to renewing contracts, the Knights know it's sink or swim.
For every player coming off contract, you know, you've got to perform to re-sign at a club or gain a contract anywhere. And certainly when a new coach is coming in and the calibre of Wayne Bennett probably gives you a bit more spark to perform on the field.
The Knights have a host of players off contract, including Gidley, Junior Sow and Isaac Goyce. Cuts look certain, with Dragon star Darius Boyd on his way and Sharks prop Cade Snowden. While happy to have Bennett on board, Gidley hasn't forgotten the outgoing Knights coach Rick Stone.
Certainly mixed feelings because Stoney's been a good mate of mine and really enjoyed him being here and being assistant coach and then moving into the coaching role the past couple of years.
Bennett's multi-million-dollar deal from Nathan Tinkler, the envy of rivals.
Any coach worth that amount of money?
Cameron's next with sport, and are the Knights ready to welcome Wayne Bennett?
Well, Pete, the town's certainly buzzing. They love the idea of Bennettburg, but the players have mixed emotions. We'll hear their concerns next. The Rabbitohs are expected to confirm their new coach in the next 24 to 48 hours, with reports that Wigan's Michael Maguire has already signed. While in Newcastle, players want coach Rick Stone kept on the books, even when Wayne Bennett takes over next year.
The pain of back-to-back losses has been eased for the Knights players in the past 24 hours. The news that Wayne Bennett is bringing his white horse to town has Newcastle buzzing, but senior players are keeping a lid on it.
I think every club would be excited to have Wayne Bennett come into their club, and we're certainly pretty excited to have him coming at the end of the season. We've got to worry about this year to start with.
Gidley says the playing group is worried about the current coach's future. They all want Rick Stone to stay at the club.
We're not sure if Rick's leaving at the moment. Certainly mixed feelings because Stoney's been a good mate of mine.
And the Bulldogs' Michael Ennis may have a get-out clause in his contract, but he's denied reports the Knights are now an option. Ennis released a statement saying he's just agreed to extend his stay with the Doggies, and he hasn't spoken with Newcastle since leaving the club many years ago. Clinton Fletcher, 9 News.
Sport now with Tony Squires, and is Wayne Bennett really worth $6 million?
Well, Chris, I think Dragons fans would say last year, yes, next year, rubbish. More important, what do rival coaches think? Find out next. Plus, a nervous wait for Knights players as Bennett puts all his ducks in a row. Storm coach Craig Bellamy says his old boss Wayne Bennett is worth every cent of his $6 million deal with the Knights. While Bennett's tried to play down the massive contract, rival coaches say it'll be money well spent for Newcastle.
Even in Melbourne, Wayne Bennett's monster deal has caused a storm.
Any coach worth that amount of money?
Oh, yeah. Someone's worth what someone's willing to pay him. So, obviously, Nathan thinks Wayne's worth that, so good luck to him. Might be able to get a chocolate out of him next time I see him.
Bennett wouldn't confirm the $6 million price tag today.
But I can tell you this much, it's pure speculation because nobody knows.
But he is partial to trips home to Brisbane on Nathan Tinkler's jet.
Yeah, well, it wasn't part of the deal, but I'm sure if I can hitch a ride sometimes, I'll grab one.
The Knights are happy Bennett's coming, but sad for current coach Rick Stone, who's yet to decide whether to stay on as an assistant.
Certainly mixed feelings because Stoney's been a good mate of mine and really enjoyed him being here.
While Bulldogs hooker Michael Ennis denies he'll take up a get-out clause in his contract to join Bennett at the Knights, there are fears of a mass clean-out of players.
But certainly when a new coach is coming in and the calibre of Wayne Bennett, probably gives you a bit more spark to perform on the field.
Bennett's decision has Souths desperately chasing Wigan's Michael Maguire.
I'm sure he'll do a really good job.
Maguire's free to leave for an NRL job. Patrick Mollahan, 7 News.
It's NRL on Fox, and we'll talk Bennett as the Wayne train rolls into Steeltown. And our reigning champ is literally blinding in the props pentathlon.
That way. Really? Yep. Really? Yep.
Yes, looking forward to this edition of NRL on Fox. I'm Ryan Phelan, and with me the team, Laurie Daly, Gary Freeman, and the man that's about to go from one Steeltown to another, Wendell Saylor.
Mate,
something?
I'm Wollongong. Red V for me, baby.
You sure?
I promise you,
mate. Sure, of course, because we're talking tonight. We're going to talk about Jamal Idris a little bit later in the show and his move to the Titans. But, of course, the big news this week, boys, has been Wayne Bennett. Let me ask you, Loz. Were you surprised at all by his decision to go to the Knights?
No, I wasn't. Look, you know, Wayne has made it quite clear that he was leaving the Dragons, and there was only two challenges, and one was the South Sydney Rabbitohs and, of course, the Newcastle Knights.
Different challenges, though.
Yeah, both present different challenges. But, look, I think he likes to live out of Sydney. He doesn't like the Sydney environment. You know, the money also available to him at Newcastle would have been hard to knock back and hard to refuse. But he's all about a challenge. He wants to go up there to Newcastle and get this team back on a winning note. And one thing I will ask Ken Edwards when we get him on is about Nathan Tinkler's passion and vision for the game up there in the Hunter region, because Wayne was quoted as saying he really impressed him. But they are getting a premiership winning coach. There's not a better coach in the game. He will bring credibility to the organisation straight away. He makes players better. They want to play for him. And, you know, a 4-year deal, good times are about to happen up there in Newcastle.
Is it a guaranteed premiership, Wiz?
I don't think anything's guaranteed. But you've got to work hard to get a premiership, and the two blokes beside me, one on my right, one on my left, have managed to win premierships, and they know how long it takes to get there. And then once you get there, you've got to win it. I've been there twice and lost, but nothing's ever guaranteed in this game. And the only thing that's been guaranteed so far is that they've got Wayne Bennett going to the club at Newcastle. The Newcastle people and the fans up there, I think they'll pack the joint out this week to support the team, number one. There's also the thing of what players will stay and what will go. You know, Laurie just mentioned what he's going to ask, and there's a lot of questions that if you're a player still at that club, where is your future? You know, what players are they looking at? You know, were you going to sign a deal just at that moment, then it gets pulled from you? So all those things. So, look, there's a lot to go, a lot of questions to be asked, a lot of answers to be given.
Did you get emotional?
No, look, at the end of the day...
Why would he get emotional when he's going?
No, I think that...
Laurie did this. How do you do an N? With your fingers.
He's looking for a big N ambassador.
The cha-ching.
In all seriousness, you know, I've been coached by Wayne at the Broncos and even at the Dragons, and look, he hasn't put a foot wrong at the Dragons in the community, and I think he'll be great for Newcastle. But as Wiz said, just having Wayne Bennett there doesn't guarantee a premiership.
No.
When he walked into the Dragons, there's still a lot of hard work to do. There was also that mental thing of the chokers tag, and Wayne hated it, I hated it, and just he's got rid of that from the team. So he makes you believe in yourself, and you know he'll go up there now. But there's a lot of hard work to be done. A lot of nervous players will be there because I know when he came to the Dragons, he cut about 8 players, and you know Jason Rolls is one of them. You know Gaz went to France, and you know look what they've got now. They've got a trophy full of trophies.
And that's a good point you make, because there will be one of 2 Knights players facing an uncertain future when Bennett takes over, but the club captain couldn't be happier at the prospect of the super coach taking over.
It's great to have Wayne coming to the club. I think every club would be excited to have Wayne Bennett coming to their club, and we're certainly pretty excited to have him coming at the end of the season. I've been coached by Wayne in the All-Stars games the past couple of years, so I know what Wayne expects of his players, and that's to do your best, and plenty of other things he'll bring to the club, and he's a good guy, and certainly when he talks you listen, and it certainly sinks into your head what the things that he gets across to you.
Indeed. Well, joining us from Newcastle to talk further about the coup of signing Wayne Bennett is Ken Edwards, Executive Chairman of the Tinkler Sports Group. G'day Ken, thanks for joining us.
Okay guys, thank you.
Ken, when did you know you had your man? When did you know you had Wayne Bennett?
When the press release came out that Wayne asked us to send out. It's the truth. And as Wendell knows, he plays his cards close to his chest, and he did right up until the end.
I just got to ask you one thing, mate. We talked about the players, and I know. Well, I'll start with Rick Stone first. Will Rick Stone stay involved with the club in 2012 and beyond?
Mate, gee, I hope so. You know, Rick's a good coach and he's a quality person. The club certainly wants him to stay, and we know that Wayne wants him to stay. So I know Rick and Wayne have had a couple of discussions as late as this evening. But that's a decision that Rick has to make, and one that he has to weigh up, but we certainly hope so.
Ken, and also that the insight that he would have with some of the players that are already at the club, of the current crop that are playing first grade, but also some of these young guys that are coming through, will give you a bit of insight into who you probably should be keeping or who you should be looking to try and poach from other clubs to bring to the club in 2012 and going forward.
Mate, you know, absolutely. Rick hasn't missed a beat. He spent a lot of time today with players talking to them about, you know, the best way to get ready for Wayne Bennett coming is to play well this year and put yourself on show and get the job done. So, you know, Rick hasn't missed a beat. He's a professional coach, and as I said, he's a quality person, and he's someone that we want at the club for all sorts of reasons.
Yeah, Ken, Wayne has mentioned that he was very impressed when he sat down and spoke to Nathan Tinkler about his vision and passion for the Newcastle Knights. Can you give us a little bit of info on what Nathan's vision is for the club?
You know, Loz, he's a 35-year-old guy. He's obviously done very well in business, and he's doing very well in business. He genuinely believes that sport is the best way for a community and its families to grow and be healthy. And he's putting a lot of money into that belief. As you know, the Tinkler Sports Group already owns the Jets A-League licence. We have just acquired the Newcastle Knights. We've also bought some netball test matches to the city. So we're looking at a variety of sports. We're keen to pick up an NBL licence in the near future. So it really is about providing the kids in the Hunter Valley with an opportunity to play sport at the top level, no matter what the sport is. But of all the sports that we're involved in and working on, Nathan has no greater love for any of those sports other than rugby league. And as Wayne said, you know, the guy's got a real passion and a real knowledge of rugby league, and he wants to spend his resources making it bigger and better in this place.
Yeah, well, it's great to have someone like Nathan Tinkler on board. If I could take you back a couple of weeks, were you surprised at how the members voted so emphatically for Nathan's takeover of the club, 97%?
You know, hindsight's a great thing. This discussion about privatisation has been taking place for nearly 6 months in this community. It's been very open, it's been raw, you know, all the hard questions have been asked, all of the answers have been given. So in one sense, clearly the community and the Knights members understood what we were proposing, and they agreed with it. But we were surprised that we got 97% of the vote. We were hoping probably at the very best to get 85 or 90%, which is still huge, but to get 97% says a lot about the thought that people put into it and how positive the deal is, I guess, for everyone.
Ken, I had the opportunity to run a Nathan Tinkler around the Ashes time, and is it true when he was growing up he was a mad Broncos man, is that right? I thought he was a Newcastle man, but he said he supported the Broncos when he was growing up.
Yeah, mate, I think he tells stories about following rugby league since he was about 1980, which would make him about 4 years old, I think. But I think he started following St George, then he got into the Broncos, but he moved and grew up pretty much in northern New South Wales and the Hunter Valley, and obviously when the Knights came into the competition, that became his team.
Okay. All right, I think you were fishing for Ken to say that Nathan had you as your favourite player or something.
No, not at all. Yeah. It's not all about me, mate.
Oh, okay.
It's not.
It's not. Something's changed.
When did that change? Yeah.
Nathan tells a great story about meeting you, Wendell, and it goes along the lines that you spoke about yourself for an hour and a half, and you said, "Well, that's enough about me. Now you talk about me." So, you're well remembered and well loved.
Ken, we'll end on that high note. Congratulations to the Tinkler Group on what's been a great marriage thus far with the Newcastle Knights. The first big coup in signing Wayne Bennett. I'm sure many more to come. Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Well, I guess the focus now, boys, turns to who will they sign. Now, the big rumour flying around is that their number one man is Michael Ennis. Now, here are the facts. I spoke to Michael Ennis this afternoon. He has not put pen to paper at the Bulldogs. Yes, he has agreed in principle to the deal at the Bulldogs, but he has not yet signed, and he has informed me that he has had no formal contact or negotiations with the Newcastle Knights. But in saying that, the fact that they have, Kurt Gidley, Jared Mullen, possibly Darius Boyd, surely the only key ingredient missing, Loz, is a hooker.
Oh, look, Matt Hilder and Isaac de Gois are doing an outstanding job for the Newcastle Knights, but when you talk about Michael Ennis, you're talking about another level of player. He's a representative player. He'll get his opportunity to play for Australia one day. He's a great competitor and he's got a great relationship with Wayne Bennett. Now, I don't know whether that leads us to assume that he's going to the Newcastle Knights or not, but I think he'd be happy there at the Bulldogs. He plays a leadership role within that club. I think he'd have a future there after football if it was needed. I know he's got a great relationship there with Todd Greenberg, but look, anything is possible now that Wayne Bennett has decided to go to Newcastle. Where there's a lot of speculation about different types of players, Cade Snowden, Darius Boyd, administrators like Wendell Saylor going up there.
There's
a lot of rumours going around.
He did go on to say to Michael Ennis that he's very happy at the Bulldogs and he's hopeful that everything will work out there. So we'll see how that plays out. But I guess the big one that Nathan Tinkler has made no problem canvassing out there in the public with is Cade Snowden.
Oh, why wouldn't you? I think the kid's having a great season. He played well last year and a beaten Cronulla side. I think he's taken his game to a new level this year. He's working a lot harder. He's worked a lot harder on his fitness, I believe. He's doing a lot more hit-ups and his carries are more quality. He always used to have a couple of little mistakes in his game, but he seemed to have fixed it up, and he's a Newcastle boy, so it wouldn't surprise me if he does go up there. The story I did hear, though, and it could be a story, is that Wayne doesn't believe that a front row should be paid over X amount of dollars. Now, I can't believe that because, whatever they get paid is what they get paid. The days of us old blokes sitting there, that's too much for that player, they're gone. And it's the same with coaching, mate. We shouldn't really know.
Particularly when we know that the third parties are going to be pretty
absolutely,
big
mate.
at
And
Newcastle.
I just disagree about these amounts of money being put in the paper about what these blokes may be getting paid. I just totally... it would be like us.
But they're having a guess. They're having a
they
guess.
are. But, mate, would you like them guessing what Wendell's getting?
Wendell, is it a fait accompli that Darius Boyd is going to leave the Dragons? We know that there's a clause in his contract, but is it a given that he's going to follow Wayne to Newcastle?
Well, look, I think he's been pretty open with the Dragons fans and the Dragons, his teammates, and I think he said that publicly. I know he said that Wayne has been a big part of his football career, and if he leaves the club, he'll follow him. And that comes back along when people are going, why does Darius need Wayne? Well, he's been a big part of Wayne's life through his football career, and I know Darius is very tight with his grandmother, and Wayne sort of played that father figure role with him and that mentor role. And I'm not sure. Look, Darius is a big boy, he can make his own decisions, but the Dragons fans and the Dragons players understand that we might lose Darius.
Would you speculate that if he doesn't go to the Knights that he will stay at the Dragons? Because there is the possibility that if they can't fit him under the salary cap at the Knights, that he could go to another club like South Sydney.
Yeah, look, I don't think Darius would get to South Sydney. I think if he's going to go anywhere, he would stay at the Dragons, not to Newcastle. I think you know, probably like to go back to somewhere like the Gold Coast where his grandmother is, but then the Titans mightn't have enough money to buy him, you know. And I know he's good mates with Steve Michaels, and he's got some great mates there. He does love his mates, and I know when he gets an opportunity, he goes back to the Gold Coast. So, look, mate, Darius, he's a big boy. It's up to him, but he'll be a big loss. I was down training today, and I've just seen a real maturity in the way that he has a role at the game, but just the way he calls the moves, and he's very talkative now, you know, and he controls that, and he commands that.
He will be a special guest on Super Saturday as well, Darius Boyd, from 2 till 3, so make sure you tune in for that, Wiz.
Why wouldn't he go to South Sydney if the money was right?
Yeah, look, I don't think...
Like, to be honest, if Newcastle spent all this money, and then the Titans spent a lot of money on Idris, why wouldn't he go there?
I don't think Darius Boyd's about money, mate. No, I'll be honest.
I didn't say he was.
No, but I'm saying...
I didn't say he was, mate.
Yeah, I think, you know, Darius, he's a creature of habit. He likes to feel comfortable within a team. At the Broncos, he felt comfortable there. The reason why he left the Broncos was he was told that after he had another year to go, they were probably not going to re-sign him. So whoever the CEO was then, I think Bruno Cullen said, you know, and all of a sudden Darius just kicked on, and I think he compliments Wayne for that, but also he's got to take a bit of credit too. He's been wonderful.
Great,
he's just gone to a whole new level. And, you know, the Titans, I mean, they bought Jamal Idris. If I was Michael Stull, which I'll say later, they should have looked at buying him.
Michael Stull, Titan CEO, is in next to talk Jamal Idris. Before that, let's get to this week's Powerade inspirational moment. And we're going to head back to round 14 of 2003. And the Knights and Dragons were all square at Newcastle at 30 points all. The final siren had gone, and Andrew Johns lined up for a sideline conversion. The rest is simply outstanding.
Powerade inspirational moments.
From the sideline, Johns from 22 outs. Full time is here. Johns, it's coming around. It's coming back. He's going to get it. Yes! Andrew Johns has kicked it. What a phenomenal finish. What a miraculous event. What a wonderful sporting moment.
Tune in next week for more Powerade inspirational moments.
Well, let's get to this week's props pentathlon, and if anyone's got a shot at catching our leader, Ben Madalino, it would have to be our reigning champion. Evarn Tuimavave at the Knights breezed the title last year. Let's see how he gets on in his defence.
Hey, I'm Shannon McDonald from the Newcastle Knights, and I'm pretty privileged today to introduce the reigning props pentathlon champion, Evarn Tuimavave. Look at that, got his haircut especially. How you feeling, mate?
Pretty good, actually.
How was it last year being the reigning champ?
Oh, no, it was a bit of a fluke, but I always knew I had it in me, so I'm looking forward to today.
All right, first up, we've got the 40-20. How you feel about this one?
Yeah, no, pretty confident, actually. You know, we've got a new game plan this year. It's give it to Evarn on last tackle, so Mullo and Gids are out of it, and I'm going to be taking over the king.
Not to worry. On your chest. Boom. Go, ball. You need to bounce. Go, ball. That's it. We've had a talk with the NRL, and we find out that it's just unfair for Putt to be doing this normally, so we've come up with this. There we go. There's a post. You can get this, bro. Nail it.
Oh, it's over! Yeah!
Really?
It's gone
that way. Really? Yep. Really? Yep.
You got this? Mate, how good was that? Straight over, blindfolded. It's unfair. Now, all you got to do now is pass the ball through big Aku Uate. How you feel about that?
It's a big target, but I'm not really confident this year.
Do you want to play the Joker card on this one?
No, I'll leave that one.
Oh! Oh! Now, you got your kick here. I've seen you practicing them. You nailed 2. You nailed 3.
Yep.
Let's go. Wants to use the Joker card on this one. He's that confident. You got this, mate.
Let's do it.
Oh, no, that's another one missed. Mate, it's such a good start. 2 from 2, now you're 2 out of 4. Is the pressure getting to you, being reigning champion?
Yeah, it is a little bit. I'm a little bit rattled, to be honest.
You used the Joker card on that one too. Are you regretting it?
Just a little bit.
Mate, you're falling in a hole. Started off so strong. What's going on?
I don't know.
It's the stress?
Yeah, it is, you know. There's a lot of weight on my shoulders.
It is. You had the championship last year, and now you've got to hit Laurie Daly for 3 points to stay alive in this competition and retain the championship. He's got no hope. No hope. You can do it, man. Feed me. Here we go. Laurie Daly on his chest. There it is. Oh, Freeman. Oh. Don't worry, bro. All right. Mate, on your bike. Competition over. Sorry.
I just want to say sorry to my dog, Roxy. Promised you I'd win it this year, but...
Sorry to the boys.
Don't worry about the boys. I carried them last year, you know, winning the Props Pentathlon, you know. We didn't get a trophy, but...
You did? True.
Oh, well, you know, it's someone else's time to shine.
Oh, well, he's lost his title. Still some nice skills there from Evarn Tuimavave. What about they're now likening you to a Kuyuate? You might have to get the mohawk happening.
Yeah, no, I have, but it's receding.
That'd almost be the half Danny Glover.
Yeah, I know, but, mate, I'm better looking than Danny Glover.
The game plan is on 1HD tonight. Steve Blocker-Roach will be there. He's with us right now. Steve, what a week. Is Wayne Bennett really worth $6 million?
Well, it depends on, and firstly, how you're going, Brad. Firstly, you have to talk about, you know, whether you're going to get premierships. And I think Wayne Bennett is a genius. He's already got 7, so the Newcastle Knights will be looking to try and get 8.
On the show tonight, from Magic Dragon to White Knight, we'll have reaction to Wayne Bennett's decision to sign with Newcastle.
Hello and welcome to the game plan. What about the weekend rugby league? Wayne Bennett has finally made his decision, signing a 4-year deal to coach Newcastle from next year. His signature caps a big fortnight for the Tinkler Sports Group, but on the same day that Nathan Tinkler announced he had secured the super coach, the mining magnate learned he had been rejected by Bulldog sensation Jamal Idris, who opted to take up a lucrative 5-year deal with the Gold Coast Titans. And joining me to discuss all of those issues and a whole lot more, Stephen Blocker-Roach. Hello, Stephen.
Andrew, great to be here. Is it too early for a rant?
Never for
Mate,
you.
there's a competition going on. We're going into round 6 now. All we've talked about for the first 5 rounds is where coaches are going, where players are going. Hello! Why don't we talk about how good the Saints, Melbourne and Brisbane are going?
24/7, 365 these days, Stephen. Joel Sugar Cane's here as well. G'day, Joel.
G'day, boys. I've got to say I second that, Blocky. The prime cattle have just coming out deluxe, the Slaters, the Thurstons, and what we saw of Benji Marshall the other night, superb.
First to the news that had rugby league fans, and in particular, South Sydney and Newcastle fans and officials on edge for weeks. Wayne Bennett's future has been the biggest story in rugby league for months now, but on Tuesday he ended all the speculation with the announcement that he had accepted a 4-year deal to coach the Knights. Now, Bennett hasn't spoken publicly this week, but he did issue a statement where he said, "I sat down with Nathan and was struck by his passion and knowledge of rugby league. Private ownership appeals to me. I like it. This guy wants to take Newcastle to another level. He wants our game to capture the imagination of the hunter like never before, and for the Knights to be the benchmark of rugby league in this country. And that's the type of challenge that appeals to me." I dare say it's not the only challenge that appeals to him. It's also $6 million over 4 years.
Well, Andrew, I reckon every side in the NRL would want Wayne Bennett as their coach. Write your own cheque, Wayne. I don't care how much you're earning. They'll get their money back, Newcastle, no doubt about it.
Joel, does it guarantee the Knights a premiership?
Well, our partner Sportsbet have got him as a $2 chance to win a premiership in the tenure. The big test for me is, well, that does it for me is, Jamie Soward couldn't make the side before Bennett came. The last game before Bennett came couldn't make the side. Within about 6 or 8 months, he's thrown up into origin calculations, so he can certainly turn a player.
Heidi, you've never played under Wayne Bennett directly, but you've played with blokes who have and talked to players at Saints and Brisbane and Queensland and Origin in years gone by. From what you can gather, what makes him such a great coach?
Oh, I've had him in Test matches. He was coaching Test match footy and the All Stars week during the year as well. So he just has a knack of knowing how to talk you. You know, I'm still really scared to go out in the training field, be worried he's going to yell at me, but he's got that presence about him where he's more of a mate, coach type of thing.
But the personality you see in the media and the way that he talks to everyone in the media is not the same person as what you know when you know him personally. Mate, he's a tremendous fella.
Definitely. Yeah, he's very easy to talk to. I think just with the media, he keeps things close to his chest, but he's quite easy to talk to. He likes to talk about his farm and whatnot and all that type of stuff.
What does it mean, Joel, for Newcastle? I mean, we all believe it's huge that the Tinkler Group has bought the club to take it forward for the next 10 years. What does this mean for the Newcastle Knights?
Well, it means a lot of confidence. It means big crowds. Everyone in Newcastle is delighted with the fact that they're signing, except one poor Rick Stone. He's just got the range, just getting comfortable with that job. Poor old Stone. You saw that in the media conference after the game on Monday night. He seemed a little bit frustrated with the whole event. You do feel sorry for him.
I'll tell you what I did like him saying too when he came out in the press, Nathan, saying that, look, I am now an NRL coach. I don't blame him for not wanting to take a back seat. Now, Wayne Bennett signed for 4 years with the Newcastle Knights. This bloke's good enough to coach an NRL side, but, choices are few and far between these days.
They are, mate, yeah. But what do you do? They've brought Wayne Bennett into the team. As you said, you've just got to sit back and pretty much cop that. There's nothing you can really do about it, except, he's got to do his best for Newcastle this year.
The other thing about it, Nathan, changing coaches like that, and you've got the super coach Wayne Bennett going to the club, I reckon Newcastle will play even better now, knowing that he's going to come. I reckon there's a few players under the pump now.
Oh, I suppose there would be, yeah. I think if Wayne goes in there, he'll have things his way, and there'll be certain players that probably won't be there. If you think about getting Darius Boyd, you've got to think about where you're going to put Kurt Gidley.
Well, we're conducting a poll tonight, and our question is this: will Newcastle win a premiership under Wayne Bennett? To vote yes or no, you can go to our website, onehd.com.au/NRL, and we'll update the poll later. Now, before we go tonight, we need to check to see the result of our viewer poll. I think it's a little bit surprising. Only 54% of you think that Newcastle will win a premiership under Wayne Bennett. I thought it might have been 90 to 10 or something like that.
Well, that's about how the bookies have framed it as well. So the punters are in line with our poll, but
I think Nathan Tinkler will be disappointed. He's not outlaying $6 million for a maybe.
For a 54%er.
Well, it depends if they get a game breaker like Darius Boyd going, following Wayne Bennett up there.
Well, there was talk this week too that Michael Ennis might go there, but then Ennis quickly came out and said, not me, Your Honour, but I wonder whether Kate Snowden will head up and who else? Will they clean the joint out?
Jamal Idris thing, yeah.
All right, boys, it's been a big show tonight, and thank you very much for watching. Stephen Roach, enjoy the weekend. See you next Thursday.
See you, mate.
Joel Sugarcane, likewise, mate.
See you, boys.
And thank you for watching the Game Plan next Thursday night. Have a great weekend.
Now, look, this is a massive week in rugby league. First up, great news for Newcastle. Wayne Bennett's agreed for a 4-year deal for about $25 million as he's heading up there next year. Great news, isn't it, for rugby league, and in particular for Newcastle?
Oh, it's fantastic news for Newcastle. Everyone wants him to coach them, but fortunately for them, that Nathan Tinkler's taken over, and it's got nothing to do with the salary cap. He can give him whatever he likes. Bennett's on record as saying he didn't want to go somewhere for the money. Hello? I think he did. I think the money had some impact on you, Wayne. That's just a stab in the dark. I don't know, but I reckon the money ended up getting him over the line. And congratulations to him, and good luck to him.
And good luck to Newcastle as well.
I think the money was pretty the same everywhere. So I reckon he's gone up there because the energy going into the joint at the moment with Tinkler coming in, it's all exciting. I think he'll sort of, player-wise, that's going to take a while because he sort of tries to get his own sort of style of players.
How many players will follow him there? There's male, the Darius Boyd, who's off contract with the Dragons, will follow him there. Next year he's how good's he going, Darius Boyd? Fantastic. That's how he would look in a Newcastle jumper, Darius Boyd. There's also a male that, of course, Cronulla's a really good prop forward, Kate Snowden, will go there. He's a Newcastle junior. That's how he'd look in the mighty Newcastle Knights jumper as well. He'd fit in pretty well. And there's Michael Ennis.
Let's talk about Michael Ennis. Like with Kate Snowden as well, is there like just a bailout clause in his contract?
And I don't know.
Well, I think Kate Snowden's off contract the end of this year, so he can do whatever he likes.
But what about Ennis?
Well,
I think he's under contract to the Bulldogs, isn't he?
Yeah, he just signed a contract, but apparently he's got one of those get-out clauses for whatever reason. I'm not sure, but everyone's got a get-out clause these days. Yeah. Do you have a get-out clause?
I haven't.
But I don't.
I'm here forever, Ginge.
It's just on that, though, and I don't want to get bogged down with it.
Yes.
Bennett's, it's quoted in the paper this week saying that Bennett will never pay one of his front rowers over $300,000.
Yeah, I read that myself.
Right?
Well, it could be. I mean, Petro left there. He obviously was supposed to get a bit more than that when Shane Webke retired, but apparently that didn't happen, and he left as well.
Well, Craig Bellamy's got a similar sort of game.
Personally, I think props are worth more than 300 with the work they do, and they're worth 600 props. What would you have been worth in your heyday?
About 20.
$20?
1,000. I wish I would have got that.
I'm not sure about the 1,000.
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed in myself there. Obviously, really amazing. Yes, say what. And Rick Stone, hats off to Rick Stone. He's been really professional through this whole saga, I guess, with Wayne Bennett.
Hello and welcome to the Sunday Footy Show. Great pictures and great grabs, cataloguing what has been and continues to be a wonderful career for Darren Lockyer. And it's a real treat for the Sunday Footy Show to have him on the show. How are you, Darren?
Yeah, good. Good to be here.
Yeah, great to have you. Of course, we've got Brad Fittler and Andrew Johns with us, but Darren Lockyer, it's the first time you've been on for the whole show. How do you feel about stepping into the TV world?
Yeah, a little bit nervous. Probably a little bit more nervous than what I was last night, but looking forward to it. I know these two guys pretty well, played a bit of footy with them, so should be a good hour.
I've got to ask you, Lockie, just straight off the top, are you going to be at Newcastle next year with Wayne Bennett? I know everyone's talking about the conspiracy theories.
Yeah, no, there's been a few tossed up, but no, I won't be at Newcastle next year. As far as I'm concerned, I'm a Bronco, and I'm looking forward to having some time off next year.
Well, the Tinkler group, and particularly Nathan himself, and I spoke to him as late as Friday, and yeah, happy with how it's all worked out.
And what about your future? Obviously, some big decisions you have to make in the coming weeks.
Yeah, there is, no doubt about that. But at this point in time, I'm coaching the Knights for the rest of the year, and that's going to be my focus.
Well, how has the week been on the training paddock?
Yeah, it's been pretty light, considering we played Monday night, had a couple of days R&R, and yeah, ramped it up a little bit later in the week, but we're in good shape and back at home, looking forward to a good performance.
You've had a tough few weeks. This is a big one today.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, absolutely. Won our first two games and lost our next three. Getting back at home, we need to win today to get back to about 3-3 and be even keel with the rest of the field.
One thing you can't control is the injuries. Geez, you've had a tough run.
Yeah, we have had a tough run from injuries, but in saying that, we believe we've got some depth in our squad, and we're confident those players are going to do well today.
Very, very difficult what Rick Stone has been through. His future being played out in the media and waiting for one man to decide what he wants to do. It must have been extraordinarily tough for Rick Stone, but gee, he's handled it well.
He has. Look, it's kind of been going on at a few clubs, haven't they? While this has all been playing out, where is Wayne Bennett going to go? And so there's been a few clubs, a number of clubs, hanging in the balance. So good to see South Sydney have now worked out their future as far as their coach goes. And Rick Stone, well, I guess he can now, at least he knows he's got the year to coach, and he can get on with his coaching career somewhere else, or he can stay here as an assistant for a period of time. So at least it's settled now.
Time now to focus our attention on today's game. It's really a must-win for both teams. They've both had some shaky losses the last couple of weeks. They need to turn things around. An important one for Newcastle. Their second home game at their new stadium, and they will be... I wonder what is going through the minds of the players after what they've been through the last month. When you add to what they went through last year, of course, with the off-field dramas they had this year, they've had the taking over of the club by Nathan Tinkler. They now know that they've got Wayne Bennett coming along next year. They're not human if they're not thinking about those sorts of things as well as their football.
Well, they can put that to bed now, can't they? And they can just get on with playing
footy.
They? Well, they have to. And it has been up in the air, but now it's all been settled. Nathan Tinkler's, his mob's taken over. Wayne Bennett's going to be the coach next year. You see there, they've got some injured players, and Adam McDougall is one of those players that just on the screen a moment ago, and Isaac de Gois, they're not playing. That's a bit of a worry. They are not at full strength, but they have some very, very good talent. I've got to say, Kurt Gidley last week at 5'8", I thought was superb. Jared Mullen, a little bit off the pace, but if those two guys can get the team rolling forward, or their forwards do, and they get work off the back of that, this side can play some amazing football. And you see a killer Uarte there. I mean, he's one of the best finishers in the game. Hasn't had a lot of opportunities, as many this year as last year, but there's some talent there.
Interesting to see Dan Tolar there dressed and ready to go. He is the 18th man today, was named in the 17, so despite all the injury concerns they do have, the Newcastle Knights, Rick Stone has decided not to go with Tolar this afternoon. And one player who's changed positions, he was named at fullback, now playing in the centres, replacing Adam McDougall, is Wes Nguama, and a lot will be resting on his shoulders this afternoon.
He's been very, very good, I think, a couple of games in a row at fullback, and he's filled in there a bit as well, but he's been off the interchange bench. He's been a wing and a centre throughout his career, so he won't be out of place today playing in the centres, but he's a very fine player, and he's got a good sense for where the football is as well, and he gets himself into the game, and that's important because sometimes when you're out in the centres, you can just you can lose your way or not get into the game. Wes McGrath is one of those players that always finds a way to get into the footy match.
You mentioned Achille Uate there. Of course, he's had all the headlines in the last 12 months or so. But before that, it was James McManus, who didn't miss a game for so long, played for New South Wales, then suffered a very serious foot injury, came back towards the end of last year, and he's starting to find a little bit more form as he plays more football.
Oh, yeah, look, the first couple of games back, it was always going to be a tough one, just to find your feet back at this level. It's a very tough level of footy to play, but he can find the try line, can't he? And I like the confidence that we're seeing in James McManus, and really good under the high ball as well, so that's important for a winger these days. I mean, it's almost mandatory, isn't it? If you can't catch the ball regularly well, you can't play on the wing.
The Knights, we mentioned how many injuries they have, but the key players that aren't injured, which is good news for them, Kurt Gidley and Jared Mullen. If they lost one of those two, it would be really serious.
Yeah, it would be. And Gidley can play all over the place, of course, can't he? He'll play at fullback if he needs to. He plays part of the game out of dummy half. He is there everywhere, man, Kurt Gidley. He's, when the time comes, or when there's a moment where you need to do something in a game to swing it your way, invariably it'll be Kurt Gidley scooting out a dummy half or making a crucial tackle or getting a really good kick away. So
how do you see Rick Stone today? Just before we hear from Kurt, how do you see Rick Stone today? Tyrone Roberts has been named on the interchange bench. There's no Isaac de Gois. Obviously, Matt Hilda is going to be rested. Do you see Gidley going into hooker, acting half, and Roberts coming out to play half and Mullen going back to 5'8"? Is that the way you think he's going to use Tyrone Roberts off the bench?
Yeah, well, if he's on the bench and he's a halfback, he has to slot into the halves, you'd imagine, at some point. And that's the luxury of having Kurt Gidley there, and the versatility of that player. He can go anywhere, really, for you. He could play in the back row if he had to, or you'd put him on the winger in the centre. So I imagine that'd be how they'll play. However, I've got to say, I think with him in the front line at 5'8" recently, they've looked really good. His halves partner, Jared Mullen, just a bit off the pace last week. A couple of mistakes that crept in, but I think Kurt Gidley's been really good in the front line, so it might affect them adversely.
Well, let's find out what Kurt Gidley has to say. He caught up with Gary a short time ago.
Kurt, what shapes the team in after a tough few weeks?
Yeah, been a few injuries over the past few weeks, but the team's going well. Good to be back at home. It's a nice sunny day after plenty of rain yesterday, so all the boys are looking forward to it.
There's been a lot going on off the field. Has that been a distraction? Coincidentally, you've lost the last 3 games when all the off-field stuff's been happening?
Yeah, it's not ideal that we've lost the games with obviously the amount of hype and news that's been going on with the club. And I mean, everyone's going to say it's a distraction, but I guess a win today would put that out of everyone's mind.
Is it nice to have that settled and know that Wayne Bennett's coming here next year and you know what's going to be going on with your future?
Yeah, I guess so. I think it's only speculation. It would have been if it went on for more weeks. So it's all sorted now and it's all out of the way and everyone knows what's happening. But we need to concentrate on our footy this weekend to start with.
How important is that, mate, to get your 3rd win of the season?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we had a good start to the year. We've lost a couple of close ones the past couple of weeks. It'll be nice to get back on a bit of a winning streak.
Good luck.
Beautiful, thanks.
I suppose they've got time to overcome their injuries as well. I mean, if you're going to have injuries, as most clubs do throughout the year, if you can hang in when you have them early in the season and get them back late, you've got time to... You only have to make the 8.
If you've got enough points.
Exactly.
You still have to be in the hunt, don't you? I mean, but a moment ago we were talking about the Canberra Raiders, who are only 1 from 6. They've got injuries, but if they don't get some points on the board soon, well, it's going to be too late for Terry Campese and Alan Tone to come back and save the day. They should be all right, the Knights. I think they're going to put in a good performance today.
Newcastle, they'll be pleased after 3 straight losses to be back as winners. Brett Camorley is downstairs with, I'm sure, a very happy Jared Mullen.
Yeah, very happy Jared Mullen. Jared, your kicking game today was outstanding, especially the second half into the wind.
Yeah, I knew I had to pick it up from last week. Wasn't where I wanted to be last week, but kicking in a tough breeze is pretty tough, and I thought they played well, the Sharks, so come away with a win in the end. It was a good one.
It was a really gutsy win too.
Yeah, it was. We've come off 3 losses there, so we knew it was a must-win game, and the boys really dug deep.
Well, your form, you must be very happy with how you're playing. Last week disappointed, but I thought you started the year outstanding, and today you were the difference.
Yeah, mate, I don't think I planned for the game well enough last week, and I think got my head right this week, so I think it showed in the game that if my head's right in the game, it's good.
Pushing for Origin selection, Mitchell Pearce to Roosters, they're struggling a little bit. There could be a halfback spot available.
Oh, mate, who knows? Pearce is a great player, and No, he's the incumbent there, so whoever they pick, I'm sure is going to do a good job.
I'm sure you'll take it if they do pick you, Jared. Thanks today. Great win today.
Well, next weekend at Easter Sunday, where are we next week? At Canberra. We've got a game in Canberra next Sunday afternoon before heading to Melbourne on Monday, so we look forward to your company. For the Canberra Raiders up against the Newcastle Knights, it will be a must-win for Canberra on Easter Sunday. On behalf of Gary Belcher, Brett Kamali and all the crew, I'm Mark Braybrook. It's goodbye from Newcastle.
This has been a production of Fox Sports in partnership with the National Rugby League.
Hey, welcome to Sports Tonight. Newcastle gave coach Rick Stone something to smile about this afternoon, just days after losing his job for next season. Cronulla was resilient, but not victorious.
First win in 3 weeks.
A big week for the Red and Blue Knights, and as the visiting Sharks tugged at Kate Snowden's heartstrings, he reminded them what they're hoping to retain, a surging run and some fancy work from Anthony Tupou, setting up the Sharks' opening try. Albert Kelly gifted Nathan Gardner a saloon passage to the try line, but through Kurt Gidley's shaky boot.
How did he do that?
And sleight of hand, the Knights were in front when he found a roving McManus and a charging Shannon McDonald.
Who was under the black dot?
They looked safe, 14 in front when Junior Soward held a Jared Mullen bullet. The Sharks were circling over the final 20 minutes.
Williams down the touchline and scores.
Gardner got them to within 4 points with 5 to go. The Knights' departing coach watched his side hold on for their third win of the season. Paul Cochran for Sports Tonight.
It finished 4 tries apiece. The boot of Kurt Gidley, the difference. And the Knights' clarity over the club's future may have put their season back on track.
Ken's next with sport, and the Knights hang on in a close one against the Sharks.
Yes, Peter, they did. The Knights faithful were hoping for more positive signs, but good hands from Tupou had Newcastle smelling trouble.
Ball out the back to Pomeroy.
The Knights hit back when, out of this leap and jumble of hands, the video ref decided Uate had scored the try. Gidley's conversion also ugly, but successful.
I've seen uglier kicks, but none of them have gone over.
A show and go from Kelly produced the next 4-pointer. Kelly couldn't get there himself, however Gardner did. And in a game that could have gone either way, the Sharks were finishing strongly before Gardner was taken out by a late shot. Clinton Fletcher, 9 News.
And also this afternoon, of course, up there at Ausgrid Stadium, as it's now known in Newcastle, the Knights were taking on the Sharks, your Sharks, in fact. 24-20, I mean, the game went down to the very last play in the final seconds. It was a 1 try to the Newcastle Knights in the second half. Junior Soward gets across the line. Then, of course, this try by Nathan Gardner gave your boys a chance.
Yeah, isn't he fantastic? And then the referee has to get in the way once more. Look at this beautiful chip over the top, smash. And I really think if that was Billy Slater or Jared Hayne, that would have been a penalty. But I don't know why it wasn't a penalty. But I'm baffled. But it was 2 really equal sides, I thought, right down to the wire. It was a good game of football. The Sharks just let them go in the first half a little, and they couldn't quite get it back. It was an exciting finish. But yeah, a little bit upsetting.
Just either side of half-time, they scored a try. They scored a try immediately after half-time, and that was just about it. But it was a thrilling finish.
Yeah, it was.
You're right, Gardner's. Man, how good is Gardner?
Oh, he's fantastic.
He is good.
Yeah.
And Albert Kelly, there was some good touches from him again today. So yeah, it looks good from the Sharks.
When they use the ball, I mean, I thought Wade Graham's kicking game today was a bit off, but when the Sharks start using the ball, they've got Albert Kelly and Nathan Gardner. I was like, give it to those young men. They're dangerous, you know, they're fast. Anything can happen, you know.
So you reckon if he's more high profile, Gardner there, he gets the penalty?
Well, it just seems to happen with those magic players. You know, referees tend to award them
more than those players are coming. And I think referees just expect the Sharks to lose, so they penalise accordingly.
Oh, here we go again.
That would get you fined $10,000 if you're a coach, which is something we'll bring up a little bit later on, of course. Now, it has been a very big week up there in Newcastle, waiting for the decision about Wayne Bennett. And, of course, we had a segment last week, which started, only lasted 1 week, as it turned out, called The Decision. We were going to run it every week until Wayne Bennett decided where he was going. Well, he did decide where he was going. As we know, he's going to be the Newcastle Knights coach for the next 4 seasons, beginning next season. So we scrapped that idea as far as that segment. Well, we have a new one now, and it's called Waiting for Wayne.
Waiting just for you. I suppose it's nice to sit here and not have to answer the same boring question of is it a distraction about a new coach coming. So, it was a must-win game, being our second home game and losing our first home game. So, yeah, it's nice to get a win at the end of a week like this. Waiting just for you.
Yes, waiting for Wayne. You'll see that every week right here on the League Lounge if he gets mentioned. And I think that topic is going to get mentioned a lot in Newcastle.
Especially if they lose.
Yes.
If they lose, they'll get hammered about it. And Kirk Gidley said there, well, it's nice not to be asked the question whether it's a distraction. If we had have kept going with the press conference, the next question was, what are your thoughts about Wayne coming here next year? So we missed that.
Do we have to have it every week? Really? Can't we have a Bennett free zone for a little while? I mean,
let's be the one rugby league show
takes a stand.
That takes a stand against this Wayne festival that's going on.
We might do that,
yeah.
But right now, of course, we've got a scoop because we've spoken to Wayne Bennett earlier tonight. I caught up with the incoming Newcastle Knights coach. Wayne, thanks for your time. Why did you leave the Dragons?
I was after a new challenge.
And what's the challenge?
To see how much money I can earn under Nathan Tinkler.
Really?
Absolutely not.
But hang on, you just said...
No, I did not. I'm just very passionate about rugby league in the Hunter region.
Oh, since when?
Since they paid me $1 million to say so.
Big fan of Nathan Tinkler.
Am now.
Why?
Oh, he's just a very passionate man and knowledgeable about rugby league.
And the money.
And he's paying me a lot of money.
Fan of the Knights?
Hate the Knights.
But next year?
Go the Knights.
Any final words for Dragons fans?
Well, there's the Darius issue.
And what about Darius?
Oh, Darius is a very attractive man, a very attractive player, and we're currently shopping for a 2-bedroom flat on Newcastle Beach.
Wayne, thanks for your time.
Pleasure.
Yeah, we get all the exclusives right here on the League Lounge. Wayne Bennett, you wouldn't have thought you'd see that.
No, but we
It's the rare footage, isn't it? But it's great to hear him speaking out finally.
He's passionate about Newcastle.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. We still haven't answered the Darius question either. That will be floating around until he makes his mind up.
Yeah, of course. Now, they were pretty excited up there, as you'd expect, in the Hunter region. Aku Uwate was so excited about the news, he started doing the Wayne Bennett jig, I think you might call this, because we've caught him on film just after the news had broken. And look at Aku. I've got a feeling Wayne might be taught that dance from Aku when he arrives in Newcastle on November 1.
I think he's going to be out. He's going to be out. Wayne's there's none of that funny stuff, mate. I'm sorry, no dancing at this club. Out. You know, Wayne doesn't like anything superfluous. He likes men to focus on rugby league alone.
Adam Cuthbertson had to get his hair cut.
Yes, that's right.
He's like the town mayor in Footloose, isn't he? He's like, no dancing, you know.
Yeah, no dancing.
No.
But they just want to dance. No dancing.
Yeah. You know what you do? You do have to feel for the coach, but the coach Rick Stone, the coach at the moment, last Monday, they lost against Brisbane.
Yeah.
The next day he was fined $10,000 and found out that he was sacked.
Yeah.
So you
and then
he
lost to Brisbane as well, Wayne Bennett's old team. Yeah. And then when he was doing a press conference, I think a plane went over at some stage. Is that right? Have we got that?
Let's take a look at that.
The poor bloke, he's had such a rough week.
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed in myself there. Obviously, pretty much.
I mean, how bad a week? How bad a week can one man have, you know? And then apparently he went home, opened the bedroom door, and Darius Boyd's in there giving it to his wife.
Worse than that. Wow. He found out the plane was Tinkler dropping off Bennett
in the
really?
Tinkler Town jet.
It was actually Tinkler's jet.
That's correct.
With Wayne in it.
That's right.
Poor Rick Stone. What a rough week.
Tough week
Don't
for the...
buy a lottery.
But they've said you can stick around, that's right. Yeah.
Well, that's it.
But
Yeah, so it's
isn't
more
it-
of a demotion rather than a sacking, surely.
But it's sort of like, you know, you're married to a woman and then you meet another girl and you're like, oh, I'm going to marry her, but you still want to live with us?
It's a bit cute.
It is an
Bit of
interesting term, demotion. I mean, if he was, he was now working as a janitor or something, is that a demotion? I mean, he's no longer the head coach, is he? I mean, that's rough.
He is until the end of the season, of course. We'll wait and see how the Knights go, whether Rick... it's up to Rick. I mean, I think if the job's there for him, if he wants it to be the assistant, but he might decide I'm off somewhere. He might be the Penrith coach next year. You never know. G'day, Matty Elliott, if you're watching. I want to get your thoughts, of course, on the moves this week. Newcastle, new owner, new coach of next year. What have you made of all that?
Yeah, well... Wayne Bennett, I read this in the paper the other day. He has coached the Broncos, the Horse, the Dragon, the Knight. Before that, he coached the Raiders, the Viking. It's something very medieval about Wayne.
Yeah.
You know, Raiders, Horses, Dragons, Vikings, and Knights.
Yeah. He's
but
a gladiator.
He's not doing it for money, of course,
No.
but I think he could farm it out a little more. You know, I think a couple of inflatable Waynes.
Sure.
Now, struggling clubs, get a blow-up Wayne, hang it in the corner. He doesn't do much, just put one of those, you know, one of those pullovers over his back. He just stands there and the guy doesn't do anything. He just... with that sort of Easter Island head, never says anything. Just having that presence there. 100,000 a year at a few clubs. Blow a couple of blow-up Waynes.
Blow-up Wayne.
You're sort of just weekend at Bernie stuff, just,
Yeah.
you know.
Hey, Wayne.
Thanks, Wayne.
How did I go, dude?
You'd probably have to get a blow-up Darius to stand beside him.
He would not be far away. He would not be far away.
OK, time for a break, but coming up, we look at that puzzling question. What is the best position for Knights captain Kurt Gidley? Now, gentlemen, here we are, 6 rounds in. It's the same old story for Kurt Gidley at Newcastle. He's played fullback, 5/8, halfback, dummy half. Where should this bloke play on a full-time basis?
Well, while Robbie's here on the panel, mate, not hooker.
Yeah, very good dummy half.
He's a great utility player, isn't he? You know, Robbie's played with him in rep teams, and I think the utility value he offers teams are, as he's doing at the Knights, what he offers his team at the Knights is such an advantage with him playing 7-6-1.
So you wouldn't change him? You wouldn't just lock him in?
Oh, no, if you're his club coach, you'd be locking into him. You want him playing 80 minutes on the field. You'd be locking him into a position. Personally, at the Knights, I think his best position is fullback.
OK, Benny?
I think he'll stay at 5'8 now. I think you'll find that for the rest of the season he'll play in the 6 for the Knights. Darius Boyd will probably lob at Newcastle with coach Wayne Bennett next year. When it comes to Origin, just quickly, I thought he was very strong off the bench playing dummy half last year. So if you can find yourself settle on your starting hooker, he's probably your best choice utility for State of Origin.
Where do you find him most dangerous, Robbie?
Yeah, I think at the Knights, fullback. At the moment, though, he's been moved to 5'8", and I think he'll stay there because Bo Henry's out for an extended period. So I think that's working there with himself and Mullen in the halves. And depending on what happens with Darius, he might end up staying at 5'8".
I really appreciate that tip too, Benny, from the point of view.
He'll take it on board, I know.
Easter's come early for Rabbitohs fans with John Sutton and Nathan Merritt signing 3-year deals. It comes as Nathan Tinkler's cashed-up Knights locked away skipper Kurt Gidley until the end of 2015.
Wayne Bennett, now Captain Kurt. On a 4-year deal, the Tinkler takeover is pressing all the right buttons.
The security of the club now is in its best ever position, and Nathan, I've had a good couple of chats to him, and he's a passionate supporter and a good man to have behind us.
Newcastle captain Kurt Gidley has signed a new 4-year deal that will likely let him see out his career with the Knights. Wayne Bennett, however, has overruled Nathan Tinkler's big money offer to Sharks prop Cade Snowden, while the Titans snared his front row partner Luke Douglas.
And Kurt Gidley's here. Kurt, of course, congratulations. Wayne Bennett, you got him. How's the vibe been in Newcastle last week?
Yeah, good. It's been a big few weeks for the Newcastle Knights and Newcastle and the community. The members voted in pretty convincingly, 97%, for Nathan to take over in the Tinkler Sports Group. Yep. And he obviously had a plan to get Wayne, and Wayne's agreed to that, and I've agreed to another 4 years, which is great.
On the back of that, well done. Excellent work. All right, we'll talk to Kurt throughout the night.
Now, stuff you may have missed in Knights Cronulla last Sunday.
Kurt Gidley is on our panel tonight, and this will go down as one of the worst goals of all time. In fact, Kurt Gidley's attempt, watch it, off the boot. It's going to miss, it's going to miss, it's going to miss. It swings over. Kurt Gidley, well done. What about the dangerous tackler, Ben Pomeroy? Ben Pomeroy's got the ball and flips Junior Sow over his head. Good stuff you may have missed.
I just realised, you know, this is interesting sitting here. We've got Kurt Gidley, former New South Wales captain, who handed it over because he didn't think it was working off the bench. I think that's the story. Now we've got Paul Gallen being touted as the next New South Wales captain. But suddenly, through the course of events, which we don't have to go back into right now, we've got Kurt Gidley's name very much in the frame in the run-on side. So who's going to be captain? Who's going to be captain if Gidley happens with 6 on his back or 1? And Gallen's in the side. Which way does Ricky go?
Who wants to be captain? Stick your hand up if you want to be captain of New South Wales.
I was on Sticky's show last week, and they asked me. They said to me, "If you're not captain, who do you want to be captain?" And I said Gids, because you know you want to play with a player who you know, leads by example, and I think Gids just plays with heart. So I think Gids. I watch Gids play sometimes.
Jump at the chance, you know. We both enjoy playing with each other, and we're both passionate. We also like our footy as well.
What happens in camp. Now, Rabs, you've got some special gifts.
I have, but you know, I was just thinking it's probably more appropriate if Kurt Gidley does this than me.
Kurt, come over here,
Come over here, mate. We've learned a few things tonight. This is from us and yourself, of course, to Paul and his wife and the youngster that's coming along. And here's another one, mate.
Ladies and gentlemen, please thank Paul Gallen for us. Well done, well said. And we'll take a break. Come back, Paul Gallen coming back to play Get That's Cash in just a minute. On the chair, we're going to play Get That's Cash. Beautiful. All right, excellent. Now, boys, New South Wales guys, you are playing tonight for the Sydney Children's Hospital, and Goliath and Jamal, you're playing for the Royal Children's Hospital in Brisbane. All right, so you ready to go? All right, question 1 is to you guys, New South Wales guys. You guys have made 10 appearances at Origin each. How many points have you scored collectively? That is between you.
I've got 1 try.
Here's a multiple choice, look. A20, B22, C24, D28.
How many tries you got?
Including goals, obviously.
Yeah, including goals. Yeah, points. How many? Well, Gal, how many have you got?
I've scored a try.
That's 4.
Yeah, I've scored 1 as well.
Kurt,
that's 8.
How many have you got, Kurt?
Lock in A20.
A20. What is the right answer? Oh. 22.
22.
So you've actually scored...
it's 1 more goal.
1 more goal.
Yeah.
Tragic. All right, Jamal and Goliath, here we go. What is the name of the dwarf in Lord of the Rings?
Have you got this, or do you want me to take it?
This is your specialty.
I've got this. It's Gimli.
It is Gimli, correct. Well done. Nice work. To you boys, 1 litre is approximately 3.8 gallons. I don't think that's right. But if your car has a 40-litre petrol tank, how many gallons does it hold?
So what was it? What was the?
Well, yeah.
3.8 litres.
I think it's 1 gallon was actually approximately 3.8 litres.
Yep.
Your car...
152.
Yeah.
152 gallons? Yeah. You are correct.
Yeah.
Well done. Jamal and Goliath, I want you to watch this vision. Here's some vision of kids playing leapfrog. Of course, we all played leapfrog when we were at kindy, at school. It was all very, very good. Yep, there it is. So, that's very nice. So, having seen that, what I would like you two to do is to come forward and I'd like you to, hang on, I'd like you to do 1 each, please. 1 each over each other. Ready?
I'm actually about to go under and try that. All right. You ready? Have faith.
The other way. All right, you boys are playing charades. Who wants to come forward and do the charade?
You go, mate. I'll put on my head. So Gal's got to guess.
Here we go. It's a movie.
Oh, I should have done this. You're good at movies.
That's what you got to do.
What have I got to do?
Well, you got to let him know what that is by doing actions and. Oh, shoot. So.
Okay. Another word for it.
Willy, Free Willy.
Nah. First word?
Willy.
Yeah, and
Willy Wonka.
Close enough. Willy Wonka and the chocolate factory. We'll give her that one. And the last one for you dudes. This is a music question. Watch the clip and sing the next line when it finishes. All right? What was that?
Islands in the stream.
Oh, well, that could be right. Let's go to the tape. Oh, nice. All right, everyone come over here. We've got this little, what's that? Oh, one at a time. Kurt, you're first over here.
Off and warmed up.
This is the courtesy of Pinballs Are Us. We're going to do this. And we're going to measure your score on the punching bag. Ready?
All right.
Hard as you hit. Ooh, I like it.
I'll tell you.
8,585.
Oh, there you go. I think I've done some rib carving.
8585. Gal, come over. Righto. You ready?
Ready? Just punch it.
Yeah, hard as you can. He's got you. 8815. All right. Goliath. You're up.
All right.
Oh, hang on. Gotcha.
Lovely.
Here we go, champ.
Woo. All right. You ready? That was what working up. I was lifting weights. They weren't.
All right, champ.
Give him another crack.
Here we go. Jamal, you're up.
Yeah, mate. Represent. Look out.
You beat him. You won.
That did not even register. That did not even register. That'll do me.
Oh, boom. Look at that.
All right, boys, thank you very much. Please thank Kurt Gidley, Paul Gallen, and the boys have won big and small $400. And a special thanks to Pinballs Are Us for supplying us with this fantastic boxing equipment. You can find them at pinballsareus.com.au. Take a break, come back after this. More of the Footy Show.
Broncos.
All right, the Raiders take on our friend Kurt Gidley's Knights down in Canberra. Raiders, I believe that Josh Dugan will play, and I think Alan Tongue will also play. So some news there for you, Kurt, but they haven't been going too good. They'll be pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, I suppose that's probably going to spur them on to try and get a win up at home this week, but we're looking pretty focused this week, and we need to get a win down there to keep things going.
What is it about your game at the moment that you really like, the Knights?
Well, we've got a few injuries at the moment, so I've been playing a bit in the halves and then sort of filling in at hooker, so trying to fill a few spots, but I guess we've been holding the ball in yardage, and that's probably been a key and an improvement from our previous years.
All right. We're going to say goodbye now to Kurt Gidley, and Rabs, you're leaving us as well, aren't you?
Yeah.
See you, mate. Thanks for coming on.
Mate.
Pleasure. See you, Kurt. We'll take a break, come back and wrap it up here on the Footy Show just a minute. See you in a minute.